going on, guys? Come in, come in. Come on. Come see Jojo. Come in, guys. Jojo, the dog-faced boy. Neither eats nor sleeps, nor crawls nor creeps. He's 15 inches across the eyes and smells like a wolf. He's Jojo, the dog. Come in, guys. Don't swipe. Just come on in. Dad, say something. Good afternoon. Eastern Standard Time, it's almost 2 p.m. 1:58. How about you? Where are you coming from? What part of the world? Twelve people. Come on in, guys. Chat, say something. Let's fill the room. Come on. Lots to talk about. What do you say? Mark, New York. Hoorah, I'm 2 hours south of you. New Jersey. Almost at the boardwalk. Right by Trump Plaza. About 10 miles from there. Afreen Khan. What's up, Khan? Where are you? In Afghanistan, by any chance? Afreen? I'm guessing. What's new, guys? Are you staying warm there, Mark? Upstate. Rochester, Thousand Islands, where are you? I'm better than I deserve, Efreen. How about you? Absolutely not. Yep, Rochester. Yep. Well, I lived in Rochester for, 3 or 4 years when I was little. I was 4 years old till I was 7 or something like that. Actually, went elementary school, kindergarten, first grade, second grade at Lakeshore Elementary School in Rochester. Yep. Hey, thanks for stopping in the room, Mark and Efreen. India. Oh, okay. Welcome, Efreen. Oh, don't forget the thumbs up, guys. You know, the like. Hoorah, Mark. Thank God for the military, right? What would the U.S. be without a military? Think about that. Think about what country would move in the quickest if we didn't have a military. Right? Romeo, yeah, China. Hoorah, Romeo. Take a guess, Efreen. Yeah, or North Korea, or, you know, it would be a free-for-all. If you think we have problems with illegal aliens entering our borders, take away our military. See what happens. Yep. And what would happen to our continuity amongst our people. Guess, Ephraim. You got to guess. Well, it's not so much foreign. We're all foreign people, from foreign lands originally. The United States is a smorgasbord of the world. But when you got people coming in illegally, then there's a problem. Right? There's African American, European Americans, Asian Americans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're the melting pot of the world. Ephraim, guess my age. Here, let me ask you, Ephraim, how old are you? And I will elaborate after you tell me your age. Romeo, where are you from again? Right now? I remember your name. I forgot your location. What's the word for a country that isn't tied to an attributed ethnicity, like Germany has ethnic Germans, Russia has ethnic Russians, but there's no such thing as an ethnic. Yeah, there is. American Indian. They were the original occupiers of this land. The American Indian, like the Sioux and the Chippewa and so on, the different American Indian tribes. Italy. Okay. Very good, Romeo. Hoorah. Ephraim, are you still there? What, Mark, I was going to ask, why would they have a hard time? You mean because of our own ability to defend ourselves, or what do you mean? Oh, you mean Ephraim? No, he's typing very proper English. Well, there were like 18 people watching the channel, and now we're down to 8. We're back up to 8. Come in, guys. Come in. Let's fill the room. Let's see if we can set another record. Hey, Ruger. Doing well, mate. And you? Oh, civilians. Well, yeah, but you get a country that is armed to the hilt with large weapons, It's we're going to have an issue. 14,000. Romeo, I just posted the live stream Monday Night Live about a week ago or so. Maybe it was 2 weeks. And that was the record, was 14,000 viewers. I shouldn't say, you said concurrent viewers. Good question. I don't know if those are concurrent viewers, the 14,000, but yeah. I'm a nobody, Romeo, so, I don't expect to get very many, but usually there's 3 things, or there's one thing that brought my channel in front of you, Ruger, or is it pronounced Rugger or Ruger? Anyways, the Word of God, which is talked about frequently on the channel, military and emergency medicine. I was a former paramedic in the United States Navy, and the Word of God is usually one of those three things is what brought this channel in front of your recommendation list. Isn't the 14,000, isn't that just how many people set their eyes on my channel as they're scanning through the, the shorts or the videos, and they happen to stop and see mine, but they didn't necessarily come in and participate. It just how many people actually saw it. Yeah. But as far as like in the room, I'd have to look. I'll have to look at the statistics on that day and see how many concurrent viewers there were. Yeah, it definitely wouldn't be fun, huh, Mark? If we were at our own, somehow the military all of a sudden just disappeared. That would be. Right. Can you imagine, Mark, if all of a sudden our skies, were filled with Soviet MiGs or, China F-16s or China MiGs. I guess China's not buying our F-16s, but, our small arms here on the ground wouldn't make a difference. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine? Yeah, it'd be crazy. It's like a movie, right? It's like Mad Max. Hoorah. Amen. Imagine that. Was he even involved in the chaplain services in the Marine Corps, or totally complete change once he got out of the Marines? I'll be dang, Mark. That's cool. And my dad was an Army medic in Vietnam. Well, tell him you ran into Doc, live streamer. I was over in Iraq with the 123 Marines, 2004, 2005, providing medical support for them. Yeah. Cool. Well, like I said, it's usually one of those three subjects that brought my channel in front of you. You probably have watched, a video or two of military, something to do with medicine or medical, channel, reality or otherwise, or, the Word of God is the three tags that I use. So speaking of, I got to add that to my description. I forgot. I usually do that before I go live, and I just realized, oops, I forgot that. So while I'm not gonna be able to see your comments just for a second here. Give me one quick second here. I'm tip tapping away on this Xbox. I'm using an Xbox to do this live stream. So this is my keyboard / mouse. What was the other one? Oh, military. So if you can hear me tapping away, that's what it is. And the last one is emergency medicine. I was a paramedic in the civilian world, as well as bringing that skill set into the military at 37 years old. And they brought me in as an E3 or a third class petty officer into the Navy as a corpsman. So I went through boot camp at 37 years old. Okay, I think I got it. There we go. Let me save that, and we're good to go. Great grandpa fought in World War II. Also the Congo in 60. I'll be dang, small world, huh? Could have avoided the draft, but chose to go. Wow, there's a commitment. You know, my commanding officer over in Iraq, neurosurgeon, brain doc, and he left his practice, volunteered to go play with the Marine Corps with us over in Iraq. Yep. It's crazy. He took a huge cut in pay. He was alluding to, not exactly, how much of a pay cut he took. And the if I remember correctly, it was like he was making $3 million a year in the civilian world, and he took a cut in pay to 500 grand to go play with the Marine Corps, provide medical support as the commanding officer, medical officer for us over in Iraq. Oh, there's the question again, Romeo. You have to guess. Pick a number, Romeo. Oh, wait, it's not you. It was somebody else. It was a guy from India that was asking. So I'll say the same thing to you, Romeo. How old am I? Take a guess. Wow, very close. Good guess, by the way. Very good. Now take exactly in the middle, or in the middle? Oh, there is no middle. But two-thirds from 58. What do you get? Oh, no. One more. Wow. Imagine that. 62, Romeo. 62. Correct. I have a 40-year-old son. You believe it? My eldest is 40. And my daughter is 36, and my youngest is right over there. He's 19. He's in his second year of college. He's pursuing a medical career as well. Maybe a physician assistant or a scientist. He's interested in immunology. No. Oh, you mean in the world? I don't think so. I think the eldest person, it's probably changed, but I remember it was a Japanese man at 113. I was an avid Guinness Book of World Record follower, and some guy from Japan held the record. I think it's been beat. I think there's been somebody at 115 years old. All you got to do is Google it and see what Google says. Alexa, who was the oldest person that ever lived?
The oldest person is Jean Calment, who was 122 years and 5 months old.
Oh my gosh. Did you hear that? Jean, 122 years old. What? Oh my gosh, you're almost right, Romeo. Did you hear that? Alexa, who's the oldest person that ever lived?
The oldest person is Jean Calment, who was 122 years and 5 months old.
Jean Calment. Alexa, where's the oldest person in the world live?
Here's something I found on LAtimes.com. The oldest person in the world is Japan's Kamachinen at age 114 years, 301 days.
There, see, in Japan, 114 years, but Jean Calment 1875, 1997. Oh my God, it's 122 years old. Wow, where's he from? Is that from France? Or is that a woman? Let me turn the music down a little bit more. That's crazy. Oh, it was a woman from France. Yeah. Well, I have a cool story. Speaking of old people, I mentioned before I was a civilian paramedic. Before I got my paramedic license, I was a basic EMT. Louis, hey Leroy, LLD. What's up? Mustaka, mabuti po. Salamat ikaw, Luis. I was saying, Romeo, when I was a basic EMT for 4 years, the first 4 years, I transported a man. It's very common in the United States. The basic emergency medical technician doesn't necessarily run emergency calls. There's other there's other capacities that is that the right word? That we work in. If grandma or grandpa or grandmother, for example, they can't drive anymore. Maybe they're lying in bed for the rest of their life. They're bedridden. They need to go to the doctor for a doctor's appointment. Well, the family can't drive them because they have to lay down. They can't sit up anymore, in a chair or in the car seat. So they call an ambulance company that has a gurney, a bed, a portable bed, and we can go into the house, transfer the grandma, grandpa onto the gurney, and then we take them out to the ambulance, keep them lying down flat, take them to the doctor's appointment. You see? That's how they make doctor's appointments now. The people that can't sit. So that was a common transport that we did. We call them wait and return. Because sometimes we take them there, it will only be a short appointment. The doctor will do his examination or, medication, prescription, and then we take them home, either back to their house or back to the nursing facility, the nursing home, for example. So I was picking up an elderly man from his doctor's appointment and bringing him back to the nursing home. And he was old, visibly, old. And I was doing my paperwork in the back of the ambulance, and he was awake. He could talk. As a matter of fact, I told him my last name, MacKay, and he said, "Oh, are you Scot or Irish?" And I said, "I'm Scottish as far as I know." He goes, "That's my boy." So because he was Scottish, I guess. So anyways, and he educated me on my last name, how some, quote, damn American, unquote, changed my name, changed the spelling. Anyways, so he was awake, and I was filling out his name and his birthday, and I looked at his birthday, and it was November 16, and then the last two numbers of his year was 98. And I thought, 98? Well, that's a typo, because he wasn't born in 1998. So I'm looking at it going, and I looked at him, and I looked at the paperwork, and I looked back at him, and I'm thinking, how old is he? So I said, "Sir, how old are you?" He said, "I'm 105. And I said, "You're 105? He said, he shook his head like this, and I went, "What year were you born?" He said, 1898. And I went, "Oh my gosh." I was looking at the correct birth year, but it only said 98. And I did the math in my head. I said, oh my gosh, he was born in 1898. I thought, it's like, who's the president? The United States president in 1898. I had to look it up, and it was President McKinley. That was the oldest person I ever transported. His 80-year-old daughter met us at the nursing home. Her 80-year-old grandma, it was his daughter. And then she had a daughter who was in her 50s, 60s, who also had children, So there was 5 generations alive. And he was still alive at 105. So that was an incredible memory, obviously. They had steam engines back then. I love it. That's great. The steam engines for railroad, or was it coal? It would be steam, powered by coal. I love it. He said he's been alive to see, well, he wasn't old enough to see the first one, but he was alive during 2 Halley's Comet visits to the Earth. Halley's Comet happens, every 100 years or so? So apparently when he was born, Halley's Comet appeared, and then 100 years later, Halley's Comet came around again. Romeo, y'all, can you imagine his stories? I know, absolutely. I've got an 86-year-old friend. He's now in the Philippines, married to a younger lady, but that was the best part of, his name was Lincoln. And that's what we did whenever we got together. We have coffee together, and I would ask him questions, pick his brain when he was younger, when he was a child, all that. Oh, really? Gosh, it took them that long to get away from the steam engines? In 1970. Wow. What was that? Pharaoh Ramsey, its corpse had to be transported by plane because it's human. They had to issue a passport for him. What? And the birth on the passport said 1303 BC. That set a record. What's the oldest passport ever issued? Ramses, who was he? Ramses the third? I forget which one. I've got a great video, a really interesting video. Hold on a second. On the mistaken date that Ramses existed, and I'll show you the name of it here. Hold on a second. Patterns of Evidence, the Exodus, I think is the name of it. The Moses Controversy. No, not Moses. It's this one. Patterns of Evidence, the Exodus. As you know, what year did the Exodus take place in the Bible? And it presents some pretty impressive or convincing evidence that they got the date wrong on part of that history by 200-300 years. And it shows a timeline where when you correct the date, everything falls in place. Where historically before they discovered the mistake, the archaeologists were having a debate as to, or argument, over when these bits of history took place because of the mistake. But once they corrected the mistake, everything fell into place. And it just supports, what's in the history book after all. That this imagine that, is telling the truth all along. And it was our stinking thinking that got in the way and made the mistake and started the controversy. Anyhow. And it even listed it as king on the passport. I love it. Is that true? It sounds feasible, like something definitely some too much red tape in the system to require a corpse to get a passport, but I wouldn't doubt it. Oh, you can actually find a picture of the passport. They took a picture of his dust, his corpse wrapped in. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's great. I love it. Yeah, the detailed accounts of the Civil War. Awesome. Hey, what have happened to everybody? We had kind of a rush of viewers, and now it's kind of fluctuating up and down there. Come in, people. Whoever's watching, don't skip. Stop swiping. Stay here. Yeah, Mark, I lost my dad in 2017, and then I moved here to New Jersey back in 2000. Well, when I got back from Iraq, officially is when I arrived here, 2005. But I've been back to San Diego and then back here in 2011, 2012. And that's where I've been ever since 2012, like January of 2012. But a member of the church that I attend, I met this elderly man. And then when having coffee at his house one morning, I asked him what year he was born. And he was born the same year my dad was. So he's the same age that my dad would have been if he was still alive. And so he became kind of my second dad. And we had a lot in common. He had 4 children. My dad had 4 children. Although his were all girls, and my family is boy, girl. Say that 10 times. And the kids are relatively the same. We're a little bit older than his kids, maybe by 3 or 4 years. But yeah, so, and he ended up becoming my fishing partner. I got a tandem kayak. It's used with me alone 90+% of the time. But when I do have a companion, it's usually this older man, and we went everywhere together. We went to the Philippines together, not to go fishing, but when I would compete in fishing events, he would come with me, and we'd occupy an Airbnb. And it was just awesome, to just chat with the man and pick his brain about, his childhood and when he was a teenager and what he did and all that, where he's been in the world. And he was a Marine. Speaking of the military, he's an ex-Marine. So we had a Marine and a Navy squid, together. 1938. Yeah, and that's the same year that Lincoln was born, 1938. Yeah. I was born in 62, and I'm 62 years old today. 62 plus 62. And I'll be 63 in August. Ruger, there you are. I keep coming back. I got a mate messaging me about his neck problems. Man up and stop complaining. Hey, that's not. How old is he, by any chance, Ruger? Oh yeah, I grew up in the 70s. 70s and 80s. I graduated in 1980. Yeah, 70s was the disco era. And yes, I did own a pair of Angel Flight bell bottoms and 3-inch platform shoes. The John Travolta with the vest and the big collar, the open collar. Yeah, what was I doing in the 70s? I'm telling you. My hair was a big concern. The way I had it, the way I wore it, and the way I looked, and let's see. It was a great era I was a drummer when I got into junior high school, so I started that, getting exposed, to percussion and drums, and then the music followed. And if you all know, the music in the 70s and 80s was an awesome era to grow up in. Just endless genre, from jazz to funk to rock and roll, disco, punk. Well, punk was a little later, but everything in between. We get on that subject every once in a while, and people start throwing out memories of all the different bands that were back then. It's just endless. Or the cartoons on television. Oh my gosh. Hanna-Barbera and what was the other company? Hanna-Barbera and I can see it in my head. Looney Tunes. Yeah, 80s rock. Oh my gosh. Are we going to get started, Ruger? 35 like me. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? That's nothing. When you said neck pain, neck problems, I'm thinking of myself now. Then again, I'm, twice, well, not quite twice your age, but yeah, orthopedic, your neck and your back, if you injure it when you're 35, God forbid, that's something to be concerned about. For instance, I more than likely injured my neck. Maybe. We don't know. When I was a teenager, motocross riding on bikes, not motorcycles, but motocross bicycles. And it's just speculation, but I may have injured my neck then. And then years later, along with the, deterioration of your body as it gets older, I developed a cervical herniation in my C3, 4, 5, 5, 6. And it was spontaneous. I didn't even do anything. I woke up with it. And I thought I had, I just slept wrong on my pillow, and ended up finding my disc was bulging into my spinal cord, pushing into my spinal cord by 50%. Had a little bulge, literally pushing into my, the jelly spinal cord. And I had symptoms, numbness, tingling, and that, paralysis kind of feeling in my chest, traveling down my arm into my elbow, into my pinky and ring finger, and around my armpit and into my right chest, around my nipple. It was like numb, and I could feel electricity, like vibrating under my chest muscle, and ended up finding out that I had a disc that was protruding posteriorly into the spinal canal. And so when I hear a neck problem, I'm like, better find out what it is. It might be nothing and just a sports orthopedic, and take some ibuprofen, but yeah, you don't want to mess around and end up going into the chiropractor. I'm telling my own story. end up going through physical therapy and on my own stinking thinking, going in to see a chiropractor to try to solve this problem, and then having the chiropractor manipulate me when I had a disc that was bulging into my spinal cord while a chiropractor is crunching my back. And you wonder, how come they missed that? Well, it's because they don't do a CT scan of your neck. They do require an x-ray when you go in and get evaluated at the chiropractor's office, but an x-ray doesn't necessarily reveal, details like a CT does, a CAT scan. And sure enough, had that had been done, that chiropractor wouldn't have touched me. But did he make it worse, or she? It was in this case. Who knows? But when the neurosurgeon found out that I was in to see a chiropractor prior to seeing him, prior to him seeing my CT results, he looked at me and he said, "You're lucky you're not paralyzed, young man." His words. "You're lucky you're not paralyzed." He said, but when I got out of surgery, he literally put me in tears. Didn't even see it coming. He sat at my bedside to change the bandage. It was a anterior cervical disc fusion, ACDF, they call it. They enter the front of the neck, anterior, and they go back to the neck and do put a cadaver disc in place, remove the damaged disc and put in a dead person's disc in my neck. And he was changing the bandage the next morning, and he told me, "You could have been paralyzed, young man, but you're out of danger now." And I was like, whoa, tears just flew out of my face. And I didn't even see it coming. I was like, my gosh, where did that come from? And I realized, how serious my problem was. So when I hear a neck problem, I'm like, red flag. So anyways, yeah, well, mine wasn't either, Rugger, right? It was just, I slept wrong on my pillow. That's what I thought. I woke up. Who hasn't? Well, I don't know if you have, how many times in my life have I slept wrong on my pillow? When you wake up with a stiff neck and then you end up, you can't even move, and you take some Motrin and you massaging it by yourself, or you get up against the wall, when you're rubbing your back on the corner of the wall or the refrigerator or, the building. I did all that thinking it was just a stiff neck. And it didn't go away, and it still didn't go away, and nothing was helping. And for 2 months, my wife's a nurse, and she kept saying, "Why don't you make an appointment with your doctor?" She kept telling me, "Make an appointment with, our primary doctor." And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Just give it another week. And little did I know that sore neck was a herniated disc pushing against my spinal cord. Yeah. So, and then I ended up having it again in 2017. So I've got C4, 5, 5, 6, and 6, 7, 3 levels, and the same surgery in the same incision. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of got some ring. He did it right in the crease of one of the crease, the already existing creases in my neck, somewhere around here. Let's see, right there. See that white mark right there? It's actually a crease in my neck, but he went in that same incision twice, once in 2012 and the other one in 2017. And when he went in the second time to do the lower level, the 6, 7, he took out the hardware that he put in the first time. He said, "It's already served its purpose, so we can take it out." These titanium plates and screws. So I've still got one plate, but the other one above it, he removed that one. So Yeah, yeah. I I even went in to have physical therapy. My primary doctor at the time was on leave, or he was out, so he had a physician assistant filling in for him, a PA, and young guy, sharp kid, and he heard my story, and he's like, "All right, well, let's do this first." And he gave me some a muscle relaxant to take the edge off, and then started me on physical therapy 3 times a week for 3 weeks or something like that. Well, he missed the ball even, and I started literally manipulating the neck through physical therapy when I had an injury, a hidden injury that was much worse than, the last thing you want to do is do PT, physical therapy. And so, the physical therapists are just following, their instructions, and I'm doing TheraBand therapy, and range of motion and stretching and hot packs and cold packs, and, all of the above. And it just got worse. And I realized, okay, I've got to stop. My position of comfort was my right hand above my head like this. And I couldn't sit down. I had to stand up, like up against the wall. At church, I couldn't sit down. I had to stand up in the back, up against the wall, and just writhe around and just constantly trying to put my arms above my head. And I kept doing this. I kept putting my arms above my head. And I just couldn't relax. And then eventually I was in a fetal position at the foot of my bed, in tears, calling for my wife to help me, because I couldn't get up off the floor. I had to lay down to relieve the discomfort. I had to go to the bathroom, I think. And then when I came back, I couldn't even get back to my bed, and I laid down on the floor, and then I was stuck. I couldn't even get out of that position. And I think I was trying to take some more medication, pain relief, and I didn't even make it that far. And she had to wake up and found me at the foot of the bed, and she's wondering, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, 50-year-old man in tears, asking her to help me. And that was I had to, that was actually after I was diagnosed and I was waiting for surgery. And I was even taking a synthetic narcotic, tramadol, and that just wasn't doing enough. And eventually they gave me Percocet, which is a narcotic, and that stuff will snow you. And I took 2 of them before my surgery. I overdosed myself on them, not literally, but I took 1 more than I was supposed to, in anticipation of literally going under the knife that morning. And the OR respiratory tech told me, "Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you." I told him, "Hey, by the way, I took 2 Percocet before I got here." He said, "Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you." And then next thing you know, I woke up and I was out of surgery. So, no fun. Yeah. But it's all better. I'm like you said, at the end of the surgery, you're out of danger now. Now my range of motion, I didn't finish my physical therapy, nor do I do any physical therapy to this day. I'm supposed to. It was supposed to be a way of life change, so that I could maintain the range of motion, up and down, side to side. But I don't do that. And now I'm suffering from it. Not so much pain, just inability to turn my head and raise my head up and down like I used to. But that's all part. I live with it now, and it's I'm out of danger. So I've just got hardware in my neck now. So, did I miss anything? Sorry, guys. I have the gift of gab, as my elderly friend used to tell me. Do I remember Soviet Union? Is that you mean the country or? Oh, in the 70s. Soviet Union in the 70s? I forget. Wasn't that was after the Cuban Missile Crisis? That was 60s with Kennedy. I was just born then. In 70s, I forget. I was only 8 years old in 1970. So let's see, I didn't start learning about like world history until, what year is that? Junior high school? 7th, 8th grade? Something like that. So that would be 1975, 1976. I forget. Correct. Yeah, I was a Navy corpsman. Yep. How do you deal with the adrenaline panic, dealing with badly injured person? Kid hit by a van and after had bad panic attacks. I helped a kid hit by a van and after. You did or the kid did have panic attacks? You did? That's a good question. We talked about this on this live stream before. Yeah, I'm curious. Did you have issues afterwards or you talking? Yeah, you did. We were just talking about this last live stream and I was saying, just a thought is those that aren't in the medical field, that don't become, that aren't sold by the business from the get-go and realize, okay, this is great. I love this stuff. And they end up doing it as a career, for the next 20 years or so, like I did. It was always told to us that less than 2% of the population does what we did without any problems with it. It literally rubbing your hands together, at the start of a shift to go do, to experience, for instance, running on kids, hit by motor vehicles or anybody getting hit by motor vehicle accidents, medical problems, all of the whole gamut. The other 98% of the population ends up experiencing what you're describing, and I think no wonder our military, the guys in our military, have issues when they first, sometimes they've never seen, how many lay public people in the public, actually have seen a person dying. Literally watching a person die. Somebody may be able to raise their hand, but the answer is not too many. And sometimes these kids that are going to war get exposed to that for the very first time in their life. And it more than likely happens to a person that isn't able to handle that scenario like I can. The 2% that does it for a living. So no wonder these kids get screwed up, after war and they are experiencing something for the very first time in their life. And it happens to be their best friend, or something to that effect. No wonder they're having PTSD and issues that they're having. Because, I don't know if that percentage is true, but it makes sense that not too many people can do that type of work without being affected by it. I went to school, paramedic school, with a classmate. A bunch of classmates, but one in particular. What's his name again? Big kid. He's kind of just a heavier set. He was tall. He was like 6'2", but he was, heavy, big white guy. And I say that because he was like really blonde and really pale skin, And what was his name? But he was a classmate. And we were going through the same, class together, paramedic training. And then after didactic, which is the classroom, you go out in the field and you get paired up with another paramedic unit and you do a third person field training. And that's when you start applying what you learned in class into the real world. And that's the hard part. Because you can learn in a book and look at the pictures and the artist conceptions and do excellent, 90+% student, or 89%. I was 89, 90 in class. And, you can pass with flying colors, but when you get out in the field, this particular classmate of mine, he found out that this was not for him. And he really had a hard time. And he didn't pass the field portion of it. And he decided not to repeat it for that very reason. He realized, you know what? This ain't for me. And so he ended up going into the dispatch, the communications side of emergency medicine. And he became an emergency dispatcher, at a desk, taking phone calls. So that's just an example of, it's not for everybody. And so back to your question, what do you do for people that, are maybe carrying that experience that you had when you helped that child? Maybe it's lingering and it's causing issues, with your sleep. And number one, I guess, would be see a doctor about it and see somebody that does it for a living and ask what his recommendation is. And, I give this recommendation every time somebody asks, but there's a program, and I'm going to plug it again. Let's see. Let me see what I'm typing here. Yeah, see, I'm typing wrong. That I got involved in 17 years ago. And it's for everybody. Doesn't matter what your issue is or problem or stronghold or addiction or struggle or whatever. Doesn't matter. Maybe you're suffering from anxiety attacks from a motor vehicle running on a child or whatever. You fill in the blank. This program addresses everything. It helps deal with issues. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's called, the name of the program is Reformers Unanimous International, or RUI. And they're based in Rockford, Illinois, here in the United States. So if you're not in the United States, this doesn't, although there are chapters around the world now. I'm not sure in what particular countries, but the website is Reform. I'm trying to type this thing here and I'm having problems here with this Xbox. Reformu.com. And it has a chapter near you tab where you can type in your location or your area, a zip code, and it will bring up Google Maps and show you, where the nearest chapter is near you. And I mean, it's a game changer to me 17 years ago. And I live the concept of the program. It's part of my life. It's just a different way of approaching life issues. And it changed my life 180 degrees. Do I still have issues? Yes, but it's just a different way, a different tool to handle that. And I would recommend, now Ruger, you're in the UK, correct? Yeah. So I don't know, is Reformers Unanimous in the UK? They might be. They're in the Philippines and they're in, want to say Mexico or South America, Canada. I'm not sure what countries the program has made it to, but yeah, it would be, interesting just to find out if there's one in the UK and get involved. It's a Friday night, 7 p.m. And yeah, just keep an open mind. Don't rule it out just because it's held at a church or something to that effect. What is your name there? I can't read Arabic, so I have no idea what your name is. Now, have you been to the channel before? I don't recognize your profile picture. Mohammed, of course it's Mohammed, right? Yeah, well, like I said, that's exactly my point. Oh, so back what I was saying originally was I almost want to say if I had a recommendation, that is everybody in the military, no matter what their job is, whatever their skill set is, at least what we called it in emergency medical school was a ride along. You do a ride along. It's not necessarily riding in a vehicle. It's just a term to describe spending some time with, and they call that a ride along. And so we had ride along requirements in the hospital. We had to do time in the OBGYN, delivering babies. We had to do the emergency room. We had to do the respiratory floor, cardiac floor, etc. We call them ride-alongs in each one of those departments. And so my recommendation, if I had one, was everybody in the military should at least have a certain amount of hours to do ride-along time with the medical department. Rotate them through certain departments of medicine, just so they get exposed to it. And I'm not sure what exactly, and the reason for that is so that at least they have some exposure to what happens in the medical field. Because, my son, for example, even though his mom's a nurse and I'm an ex-paramedic, he has no exposure to what my wife does, a bedside care that she does at the hospital. And although we tell him about it, he has no direct experience with that. And so, would he be able to, handle himself, in a crisis situation? I have no idea. Probably not, and it might be a traumatic experience for him. So if everybody had some exposure to it, at least a certain amount of hours, required before they go to war, maybe they might just have a different, experience with, an emergency situation if and when they experience it. I don't know. I'm just thinking, instead of it being your very first time experiencing something while you're you're away from home for a year, and that you have no choice but to finish your time while you're there. And now you're all messed up in the head, having nightmares or whatever, what a horrible experience that would be. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, if there's no chapters in the UK, then so much for that recommendation. But I guess the bottom line is, get help. Don't rely on your own stinking thinking. Put it in the hands of a professional. Find somebody go to your, if you have a regular doctor or have access to a doctor, just run it by him and say, hey, this is what happened back then, and I'm still thinking about it, and I wish it, I didn't have those memories or whatever. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's exactly what I'm referring to. That's the type of training that we did, as basic EMTs. They literally bottle feed you, at the beginning, and they just start, educating you, at least putting you through classroom. And then from the classroom, they put you in the real life setting. You end up doing ride-alongs, whether with another ambulance crew and or maybe at the emergency room. Matter of fact, we had requirements for the emergency room as an EMT. And we had to we had to bring our paperwork and have the paperwork signed off by a nurse that we actually did, 8 hours at the emergency room. And we had a requirement, I forget what it was, so many hours at the emergency room. And that was part of our training. And we had to try to get hands-on as much as we could. They had skills that we had to have checked off, bandaging, splinting, etc. Blood pressures, vital signs, the basic stuff. I was just listening to, are you familiar with Black Rifle Company? I drink their coffee, as a matter of fact. And so I subscribe to their YouTube channel. A great channel, by the way. And they go out and embed themselves. The Black Rifle, they're a military run company, a veteran run company. And so the veterans embed themselves with today's United States military, and they go out and they film and they put together documentaries based on their their experience out in the field with the guys. And I was just watching one, and that was the exact experience that one of the soldiers was having. He witnessed his best friend, get blown up or shot or whatever, and finding him and having to, and that is with him to this day. And now he's out of the military. And of course, he's still recalling and having issues, with that experience. And that he even said that was his first time seeing something like that, let alone to his best friend. And I thought, there you go. That's exactly what we're talking about. No wonder they're all messed up in the head. Yeah, I drink the extra dark. It's called Beyond Black. The letters on the front of the Keurig, the K-Cup cartridges, the letters on the top of it is BB, Beyond Black. I'll show you. Wait, hold on. Good stuff, though. Oh, you know what? Sorry. The cartridge doesn't have BB on it anymore. This is actually an updated one, but this is the label of the cartridge. But it's Beyond Black, Black Rifle Company. Not all of it is strong. They've got mild and medium and dark and flavored and all the above. Actually, you know what? I've had many Muslims in the chat room there, Muhammad, if that's your name. And yeah, I've actually offline chatted with a young Muslim, And yeah, we talked for probably 2 or 3 days, going back and forth, back and forth. And the bottom line is, to answer your question, would you ever come to Allah? No, absolutely not. Although Allah is God, but yeah, you're talking about a different God than what I believe in. And so, no, I wouldn't. There's no reason to, because the evidence that I have, that I've discovered in 17 years of studying the Word of God, is overwhelmingly convincing that the history book that I read about God in is overwhelmingly convincing to be the truth, to be to be where we came from, what happened in the beginning, and what's going to happen when I die. So there's no reason to deviate from the truth, right? If you find the truth and overwhelmingly convinced 100% that it is the truth, the way, the truth, the life, then there's no reason to, consider anything else. I say to Muslims that it's only a distraction to consider anything else. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's the bottom line. That's to answer your question. Yeah. Once you find the truth, Ruger, well, I'm glad to hear your background. And I say there's one of 3 reasons why my channel ended up in front of you: the Word of God, military, or the emergency medicine, or all 3 of them, whatever. Yeah. It's pretty impressive, actually, Muhammad, if I may add, that when the puzzle all of a sudden came together, and I realized, oh my God, like literally, oh my God, what have you done? When I came to that point, I realized, that's it. My life has been changed forever. And for 17 years, it's been changed. And if somebody else could grasp the concept, grasp what I've grasped, they too would be convinced, overwhelmingly convinced. But until then, you're going to have resistance, and you're going to have people like yourself, offering or asking, I hope you come to Allah. I hope you come to John Smith. I hope you come to, Hinduism, Mormonism, Catholicism, all the isms. There's no need for that. It's just a distraction. I have the way, the truth, the life right here in my hand. It's complete. It's finished. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be taken away from this. The love letter is contained in those 66 books. And that's the bottom line. There's no reason to deviate one way or the other from that. I've got so much evidence in front of me that is overwhelmingly convincing in all branches of science. When you look at all the branches of science and use this as your starting point, in the beginning, God created, the very first sentence. When you use that, in the beginning, God created, and ask yourself, if, conditional, in the beginning, God created, if he really did that, what would you expect to find? And then start doing your studies, your scientific studies in all the fields of science, i.e. geology. Let me read it off. Wait a minute. I've got it in my my bag, and I haven't taken it out. Here, just a little plug here on some recent readings that I just got. Here's one. Biblical Biology 101. Beautiful book. It's about a 300-page, 260-page, beautifully illustrated book on biology, written by a Dr. Robert Carter. And this whole book is based on that very question I just said. If in the beginning God created, what would you expect to find in the fields of biology? In this book, I've just started. I'm like on page 48 or 44, actually. Oh, there's my bookmark. Yeah, it looks like I'm more on page 48. Just started reading it. And that's the stuff I've been reading for 17 years. I've been reading scientists' journals and technical articles in the fields of, for instance, biology. Let me read all the branches of science because I always forget them. Oh, here's another plug for another book. Evolution, the Greatest Deception in Modern History. All based on, in the beginning, God created. All right? So what would you expect to find in the fields of geology, biology, genetics, medicine, paleontology, chemistry, biochemistry, physics, astrophysics, and astronomy? And then go about your research, And so I've been reading those scientists in those fields, their results based on, in the beginning, God created. What would you expect to find in all those fields of science? And the answer I've studied, or that I've concluded, is overwhelmingly convincing to be the truth. And so based on that, why would I consider, Islam? Islam is contrary to this truth that I've discovered. It contradicts. As a matter of fact, if you look in your book, Surah, chapter 5, 46 and 46, 47, forget, 47, 48, anyways, say 45 through 50 to include the verses in between. That is in the book of the Quran, Surah 5, 45 through 50. You will find the Torah and the gospel commanded by Allah for Muslims to believe. Imagine that. Why would the Quran mention the Torah and the gospel and call it the truth, and for Muslims to believe it? But the contention that a Muslim will say is, well, the Torah, the original Torah and gospel has been corrupted. Of course it has, right? That's an excuse. Please. I've got an uncorrupted version right here in my hand. So that's baloney. I've got an uncorrupted copy right here in my hand. And the Torah says to believe this. I'm sorry, the Surah says to believe the Torah and the gospel. This Torah contained in this preserved copy and the gospel in this history book is contrary to the Quran. Why? Or how? How could it be? Right? If the Quran is considered the final authority? Well, it mentions the Torah and the gospel. And the Torah and the gospel refers to Jesus Christ as the only begotten Son, whereas the Quran calls him a prophet. How can that be? You see? So if the Bible is true, then the Quran has to be false. Why? Because Allah says to believe in the Torah and the gospel. The gospel says something completely contrary to the Quran. Something's wrong there. Yeah. Oh, it's way interesting, Ruger. It's profoundly contradicting. Look it up. You can look it up. Look up Surah 5, 46 and 47. It's very clear. And the comeback to that from a Muslim, I get it every time, is no, there is no original Torah and gospel out there. And I disagree with them. I'm holding it right here in my hand. So what are they talking about? And number two, so why would Allah refer to the Torah and the gospel if it can't be relied upon because it's corrupt? Well, that's not my problem. That sounds like a Muslim problem. My recommendation is get out there and find an original Torah and original gospel. I did. I found it. So if I can find it, a Muslim can find it. And when they do, I mean, you start in the beginning. Speaking of, start out in Genesis 1:1 and read what the Torah says. And it's gonna conflict with what the Quran says. Isaiah 53, for example. John 3:16 in the New Testament. Genesis 1:1. I mean, what other? I mean, it's just endless. And this entire thing is corrupt. It's like, really? When did that happen? The Word of God in this history book hasn't changed ever. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It says the same thing. John 3:16 is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. What Son is that? Well, it just said, for God so loved the world, he gave his own, that whosoever believeth in him, his only begotten Son. Well, that only begotten Son just happens to be Jesus Christ. That hasn't changed. That hasn't been corrupted. It's like, right? John 3:16 sums this whole Bible up. The whole Bible is a love letter pleading for human beings to come back to him. I know, it is. It's simple. Here, I just wrote about this. I just posted a couple of shorts from my live stream. I'll take these live streams, Ruger, and I'll take clips from them and create shorts from it. Like what I'm talking about right now. I'll go and edit this live stream and then take out 1-minute sections and create shorts out of them so I can produce content instead of, producing separate content and then having to edit it and so on and so forth. I'll just take little clips from this live stream. And I did that recently, and I was talking exactly about this. And that is, we got all of us, first of all of us came from the same place, the same creator, the same way. There's no two ways that any human being on this earth came to this world. We all came here one way, right? So that means there can only be one truth about the matter. One way, one truth, right? About this life that we're living in right now. We all got here the same way, right? And we have two problems. We're all sinners and we're dying because of that sin. For the wages of sin is what? Death. So we are dying because of sin. So if we don't want to die, we need to be able to do something about our sin. And once we figure out how to accomplish that, get rid of our sin, how are we going to take care of the ultimate result of sin, which is death? How are we going to solve that? I can't come back to life. Can you? Can you? Can my son? Can anybody? Can anybody resurrect from the dead? At least human? Walking today on this earth? No. So how, pray tell, are you going to be able to take care of those two problems? It would require somebody to be able to do the supernatural, to forgive and forget our sin as if it never happened. And number two, be able to resurrect from the dead once they've forgiven you. And boy, that sounds like somebody I know that existed in this history book. Yeah, his name's Jesus Christ. And he came in the form of a man. And he accomplished those two things. But the best part about it was he did it for us because we can't do what he did. We can't suffer psychologically all the suffering of people's sins in the world, take upon all that into your body and literally seep blood on the outside of your skin. It's a condition called hematidrosis. It's an actual physical medical condition that's usually experienced by extreme duress. Well, it's exactly what Christ suffered. He suffered extreme duress to the point where the blood separated from the blood cell into the spaces of the tissue and started revealing itself on the outside of his skin like sweat, but it wasn't just sweat, it was blood-tinged sweat. He suffered that because he took upon all the anguish and pain into his soul, into his body. Can we do that? No. Why did he do that? Because sin was originally committed by a human being. His name was Adam. So therefore, it needs to be redeemed in the flesh. So first Adam committed sin. Second Adam redeemed us from it or forgave us of it. By, how did he do it? He took upon all of our suffering. Why did he do that? Because he loved us so much and he wants us to come back to him. So in order for us to go back to a sinless environment, we can't have any sin in us. So somehow somebody's got to be able to forgive us as if we never committed any sin. It's like he had to reverse the process. Because of one man's sin, all have sinned, and now everybody's suffering because of it. So what did Christ do? He literally took it in reverse. He now is taking all those sins, suffering, and he's going to experience upon himself. And because he did that, you don't have to go through it. You. And then he did the supernatural. He defeated the second problem that we have. He defeated our death. How did he do it? He resurrected from the grave. Hey, Crystal. So there it was. It is finished now, right, Ruger? Somebody suffered for us. That's in the place of, by the way, that's the definition of for. You know, that three-letter word, F-O-R. That's doing something in the place of somebody else. Like if you dropped your keys and I picked it up for you, that's so that you don't have to bend down and pick up the keys. I did it for you. So I went through the suffering of going down to bend over and pick up your keys for you. And then I gave them back to you. Christ suffered on the cross for us. He did it in the place of us. So if he wouldn't have done it, guess what we would where our position would be when we take our last breath? Literally up on that cross. Gosh. In other words, in a place of suffering forever. And that place is known as hell, per the Bible. So he did it so we didn't have to experience that. And then 3 days later, he defeated the outcome of sin, which is death. And now he did the hard part, the supernatural. He said, believe in me. Just believe in me. Believe that I actually was a person, that I did that, and I did it for you. He said, if you believe in me, I'll give you another chance to live again. Not a chance. I'll give you the opportunity to live again when you take your last breath on this earth. But this time, forever. Wow, you think life's good now? Can you imagine? I can't imagine what it's going to be like to be able to live forever. I mean, I can't even fathom it, but I'm not going to worry about it. And then when you start studying, what does all the fields of science say about in the beginning God created, and you start seeing overwhelming evidence in all those fields of science, and you're just shaking your head going, my God, what have you done? Like, really, what have you done? And it's even more convincing. And then the rest is history. And that's what I've been doing for the last 17 years. And it's overwhelming. So yeah, why do I need to come to Islam? No, there's no reason to. It's contrary. Yeah. Wait, what's this, Crystal? What do you mean Adam resurrected from the grave? No, I didn't say that. Did somebody else say it? Sorry, let me scroll back here. Oh, Crystal, you came in. Let me back up here. No, Adam, I didn't say Adam resurrected from the grave. I said the first Adam. In the Bible, they refer to Christ as being the second Adam. Okay, it's a, what's that called? I forget the word, where it's a picture of an actual, event. Here, let me read the Word of God in that way. I'm not using my stinking thinking to. Jordan. Oh, Jordan. Can you look up this verse for me? What is
No.
Due to one man's sin, all have sinned? The one that talks about
Romans 5:12.
Yeah, what does that say? Romans 5:12.
Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin.
And death by sin. For that all have sinned.
And so death passed
upon all men. Correct. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Crystal. Romans 5:12. Wherefore, as by one man, Adam, I'm going to insert for clarification purposes. Wherefore, as by one man, sin entered into the world. So obviously that's Adam. And death by sin. You see that? There's another. You want me to prove you're a sinner? Are you going to die? You see that? And death by sin. Why are we dying? By sin. And so, because of that, death passed upon all men. For that, all have sinned. Okay? Here we go. Nevertheless, this is verse 14. Death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come. You see, that's where that picture of the second Adam comes from. Okay, it's not literally. It's figured. That's the word I'm looking for. It's figuratively. Okay, the first Adam is the figure of him that was to come. Okay, and then here it is. For if by one man's offense death reigned by one. So who are we referring to? Adam, right? Much more they which receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness shall reign in life by one. Who's that one we're talking about now? The next two words, Jesus Christ, in parentheses. Okay? Therefore, because of that, as by the offense of one, judgment came upon all men to condemnation. That one is who? Adam. Even so, by the righteousness of one, the free gift came upon all men unto justification of life. So who are we talking about? Jesus Christ, the second Adam. Okay? So maybe you had that confused when I used Adam in reference to the second Adam in reference to Jesus Christ. Okay? So, correct. That's just one example. There's other verses that refer to. As a matter of fact, if you go back to Genesis, Crystal, speaking of, that's a great thing to study is, you go back to Genesis and you read about who Adam is. A lot of us have read the story of Adam and Eve. Some haven't. But anyways, so you go back to Genesis and you read about the first Adam, right? And then you can even shortly thereafter in Genesis, what is it? Genesis 3. Was it Genesis 3? They're both naked. That was after the sin. Let's see here. Now the serpent. Okay, that goes on to explain what exactly happened, how they were deceived. Here it is. Genesis 3:15. It now mentions the second Adam, but not in an indirect way. It's actually vague, but it's considered to be the first prophetic reference to Jesus Christ, and it's in Genesis, and that's Genesis 3:15. And God says, and because of what Adam and Eve just did, the mistake they made, because of that, I will put enmity or hostility, strong hatred between thee and the woman, that is between Satan and the woman, and between thy seed, that's Satan's seed, and her seed. Who's the woman he's referring to here? Who we can kind of deduct there now that we know what happens in the New Testament. What woman is he referring to? Right? It is Eve, right? Because of what they did, God's now putting hatred, strong hatred, hostility between Satan and Eve, and between thy seed and her seed. What is ultimately Eve's seed in the long run, after all the generations? It'll come down to Jesus Christ, through the line of David and so on. So because of that, now he's putting hatred and hostility in that gap between Eve and Satan. And he says, it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. See, in other words, the crown on Christ's head and Jesus Christ overcoming Satan by defeating death, Christ bruises Satan's heel. He overcomes it. So anyways, that's a kind of a vague reference to Christ, even in Genesis, the second Adam, as we learn later. That's a figuratively, right? Is that the word I learned? Figuratively. Right? Through the first Adam, we suffer damnation. I'm paraphrasing. Through the second Adam, we receive condemnation. I'm sorry, not condemnation, redemption. Yeah, not condemnation, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm busy doing Ancestry. And that in itself is funny. It's named George Middleton and Middleton, although they may have different name variations over the years. But I can't find nothing much else about the individual other than through finding a grave, and even with the history is wrong, accuracy on dates. The way I recall the story is by Henry, and he was the heel, aka Archie Bunker. What? That was the way we were conditioned as kids. Oh my gosh, I'm sitting on my foot and now I'm numb. I think I had this issue before. I need to have a booster chair to sit on here. I'm too low. Oh, so who's still in? Oh, welcome into the back to the room, Crystal. I think I briefly said hello as you came in. I just thought I'd go live this afternoon because I'm getting cabin fever here in this cold weather, not having anything to do outside. You know, Crystal, as you know already, you and I both did the Ancestry.com. And once you get yourself plugged in, you know, and develop an account with Ancestry.com, it can lead you down many rabbit holes trying to research your your ancestry. And then it starts, the more you get involved, the more recommendations you start seeing pop up. And you start clicking on them, and it says, "I think we found your great great grandfather." And then you come back and you say, "We think we found his wife." And then you start developing your family tree and plugging in those names when you're convinced that, yep, that was my great great grandmother. And then I just realized, oh my gosh, this is never ending. And then in order to progress a little further, you got to pay for another. You got to upgrade in order to get that information. And I was like, okay, I've had enough. And that went by the wayside real quick. Well, maybe I used the wrong term. I'm talking about, you know, it's like never ending. You're just constantly chasing, one lead to the other lead. What is interesting, though, is to look at the consensus. Have you seen those? Like the 1950s, and it goes back to the 40s and 30s, and you start seeing. I found my mom and dad's name when they were first married in Michigan, or my dad they were in Michigan, and then the birth of my brother, and they show, you know, my dad's name as being the father or the husband, and my mother's name being the spouse, and then my brother's name. And it was just interesting. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing my mom and dad when they were, you know, just starting out, and the consensus actually records them. Oh, and my dad lived with he didn't live with his mom and dad per se. When early on, for whatever reason, he ended up living with his grandmother. And I even found my grandmother's name with my dad's name at a particular residence. And then the man that she was married to, or a second husband or something, it was weird. I was like, oh my gosh, this is cool. I do, at least my Scottish background. I've got that, what do you call it? The tartan or the shield of my last name. The Scottish background of my last name. Yeah. I don't have it, but I've seen it, and I've had the opportunity to purchase it, but I never did. You know, when I was in Iraq, coming home from Iraq, we staged in Kuwait when we arrived, and we also, on the way out, we got shipped to Kuwait to hang out for however long, and then eventually to the airport where we boarded the plane and came home. But in Kuwait, they've got all the things from home that you can enjoy while you're staged there, like fast food restaurants and Pizza Hut and Coffee Bean and these different things to enjoy while you're there. And one of the things, they had a souvenir shop, not a souvenir shop, a shop where you could research your family name. And of course, it was just an opportunity to spend money. Some business, erected their kiosk and something for us to spend money on. And I didn't fall for it, but it was an opportunity to get your shield with your name on it and the family history and so on and so forth. That was in Kuwait, of all places. Yeah, the family crest. Thank you, Ruger. Hey, reaction, Marone. You found me. Awesome. This is a spur of the moment live stream. I'm not usually on Thursdays, but thanks for finding me there, Miron. Maraming salamat. What's going on, bro? Fellow Californian. Don't they have a Max's there in LA? I think I've been there, actually. Right? Wasn't it in LA? What's new, Crystal? Besides your family tree. So I phoned the armed forces the other day, and get this. One recruiting officer takes the information. Okay, I have someone stealing my phone. Now I need to submit. Say what? All those documents again. And go to a different armory? What's the mission? Okay, I have it comprised by someone stealing my phone. Wait a minute. You lost me there at the last part of that, Crystal. What happened to your phone? And when did it happen? Did you have all the documents on your phone? Or wait, I'm lost. Oh, speaking of, I had a coffee ready to make over there, and I never started it. Yeah, what were you doing in the armed forces? So it happened when I moved to Edmonton, and some of that, yes, like my email to apply and my password, of course. Oh, you're having tea? You know, Ruger, I did tea for the longest time. I was a teetotaler, totally. Imagine that. Teetotaler, totally. Loved it. Was into some Mideastern and or Southeast brands from Indonesia. I even had some incredibly dark, almost woody black tea in Iraq. They claimed it was Iraqi tea, but I looked on the package and it was from Indonesia. But nonetheless, it was the bomb. It was loose, loose tea, and it just. I was drinking that the whole 8 months I was over in Iraq, and I wasn't a coffee drinker. And I would even put cream, as y'all do in the UK. But I didn't have any liquid creamer, so I was using the powdered creamer. But it was good nonetheless, and some sweetener and or honey. And I drank that stuff like it was candy. I loved it. And then I got back to the U.S. and somehow I've always tried to drink coffee throughout my life, but I just couldn't. It was like something you had to develop a taste for, and I couldn't do it. And my brother drank it straight black, and my mother drank it straight black. And I tried it when I was in my early 20s, and it just couldn't do it. So I never did drink coffee. Well, when I got back from Iraq, somehow I got exposed to coffee again. And however I learned about it, putting heavy cream in the coffee. So I thought, well, that's what I do for my tea. So let me try that in coffee. And I put a lot of cream, made it super light, and some sweetener or honey in the coffee. And I just got like, whoa, this is incredible. I can drink this. I love the flavor. So I changed from tea to coffee. And now for the last 17 years, I've been drinking coffee. And my tea went by the wayside. Oh, I'll be dang. I didn't finish your story about. So did you get everything figured out and the application resubmitted, and now you're applying for a job with the reserve forces? A job like administrative work, or you're going to actually join the reserve forces? Resource administrator. You just answered my question. Oh, well, cool. Yeah, no kidding, Crystal. That'd be good. Oh, no problem, Louis. What do you mean permission? You don't need permission. Bob's scary. I gotta go. Hey, if I'm still on, I'll be on maybe for another 2 hours or something. Look for me when you come back, if you can. No problem. Don't forget the Tom Sock, right, Louis? I'm looking to do a practicum, but the process is blowing my mind, having to resubmit all. Yeah, I bet. Oh, yeah, there's better tea than the English Yorkshire tea, but that's what I'm used to. Of course. Yeah. Our coffee's terrible in the UK. I gotcha. Yeah, I know, Louis. So am I supposed to say permission granted, Louis? Permission to go aboard, permission granted. Actually, I didn't have to, I never learned, I shouldn't say that. I learned the etiquette of boarding a ship. I had to learn, but I never applied it because I never got assigned to a ship. So I was on the ground for 8 years and never got the opportunity to go through the formalities of boarding a ship. Yeah. Well, welcome to the military and documentation and never relying on somebody else. It's not only in Canada. The U.S. is renowned. The U.S. military, I learned, is renowned for making, I shouldn't say renowned for making mistakes, but it happens. And you learn that real quick. Don't rely on somebody else per se. Make sure you've checked it yourself or handled it yourself or hand walked it yourself. No, it took me months to get to Iraq because they kept misplacing my paperwork or something. And I got delayed at Camp Lejeune for a month while everybody was rotating past me and going to war, which is probably a good thing, but it just delayed my anxiety already. The group that I arrived with at Camp Lejeune, they went ahead of me, and then 2 more classes went ahead of me, or groups, I should say, not classes. And then finally they got my paperwork squared away, and then I got shipped out. So I was way behind schedule. Even being deployed to Iraq took me, well, I don't know how many years it delayed me, but 9/11 happened in 2001, and I didn't get deployed until 2004, where other unit members in my unit, there at Oxnard, California, they were getting deployed. And I held the same rank and the same rating as they did. And it's like, why are they going ahead of me? Well, come to find out, my paperwork was misfiled at the Department of Defense back here on the East Coast or in Maryland or wherever it's located. And then my unit got word that Doc MacKay should be deployed or being deployed, but his name hasn't come up. Why is that? And then I got approached by my commanding officer, a lady, and she asked me, how long have you been in the reserves? I said, let's see, it was 5 years at the time. And she said, yeah, that's what we have also. And I had to ask her, can I ask why? Actually, it was 4 years. And she said, and she told me this story. Yeah, there's requirements for Iraq, which you've probably heard, she said to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing my unit members like disappearing. And she's like, exactly. Well, the Department of Defense got a hold of her and told her what the problem was. And they misfiled my name, my paperwork, I guess. And then finally in June of 2004 is when I finally got the phone call, where the others had already shipped out a year prior. So it took me an extra year to deploy. So yeah, you learn real quick not to rely on somebody else unless you can physically watch them deliver it or file it or whatever. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's like the more hands that a document goes through, the possibility of error just starts going up. You know, that's why Trump, you know, he's going to hopefully, as he did his first term, you know, he started nipping a lot of that in the bud and getting rid of all these steps that are required in order to, you know, move something forward. That's what he's good at, getting things done in 1/5 the time, you know, that it normally takes by eliminating all the middle steps. So, you're talking to me or Crystal Ruger? And what are you referring to? Get out there then? Oh, you mean as far as them delaying all and misfiling my paperwork as I was being deployed? Is that what you're asking? Like, why not keep my mouth shut and not get deployed at all? Well, believe me, I was thinking that as well. As a matter of fact, if that's what you're referring to, when I was seeing all of my unit members getting deployed and I wasn't, I was kind of like just zipping my mouth shut and staying low and thinking, you know, I'm not going to ask about it because maybe, just maybe, they'll miss me, right? And yeah, I thought about that. And I just went about my business, you know, in my civilian life, working as a paramedic, reporting to work, and, you know, and all of a sudden I finally got the phone call. So, oh, no. No, I didn't want to go. No. It was just hurry up and waiting in one spot when you know that, you know, you've already been deployed. The process has already been put into place. You know, you're already involved, and now you're hanging out at one place, and it's like, man, how much time, you know, can you spend in one place? What do you do? You know, and then you got to sleep from one day to the next. So then they end up putting you in some military bunks, you know, in some building on the base. And then you have to report back to this processing building the next day. And, you know, you're just anticipating. It's like, okay, I know what the next step, they told me already where I'm going. I'm going to Houston, Texas to meet up with the battalion that I'm going to be working with. And that was yesterday. And then like the next day comes, and then the next day comes. And meanwhile, there's groups of people coming in. They're watching the videos and going through the processing and filling out the paperwork, which you've already done 2 days ago. And then they go ahead of you. It was just a matter of, okay, come on, let's, you know, I need to get to my next point. And nothing was happening. So I didn't want it per se, but I would like to move on with this. You know, let's get this started. The quicker I can get it started, the quicker I can get it done. You know? Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was referring to. On the base, there's, you know, military accommodations isn't like something to jump up and down about. At least not when you're sleeping in one room with, you know, 20, 30 other guys in bunk beds, you know, one above each other. Especially, you know, when you come from the civilian world and you're only doing the military, you know, one weekend per month. So what you're used to is basically being spoiled, whether at home, you know, where you can sleep in your own bed and take your own shower. Or, you can stay in a hotel room where they've got, good to go accommodations and so on. And now you're on a military base at 40 years old, 42 in my instance. And I'm sleeping in a room of, bunch of guys that are in their 20s. And I got to take, open showers with the rest of them and shaving with the rest of them, with a line of guys in the bathroom. And you're going to chow hall, in formation. And it's not the civilian world in the military. Doesn't matter how old you are. Yes. Oh my gosh. That was the worst part, Ruger. That was the worst part. Well, I shouldn't say the worst part. That was one of the other difficulties. The worst part is being in a dangerous zone, trying to do your job. That sucked. That was uncalled for. It's like if you had any way of making that stop, that would be priority number one. And then priority number two would be to go home. But you couldn't go home, and you had 7 months ahead of you. That's 210 days, and then you get to write them and or video chat with them if that's available. It just, it's good to reconnect with them and talk with them and chat with them and write letters and all that and get gifts from them from home. That was one of the best parts. Getting care packages from your family. But it also makes you think about them, and then when the, what starts hitting the fan and things start getting rough, it makes things kind of, rough to have that in your mind. Or what else sucked, and they even educated you or advised you before you went, is if you're ever in the situation where you're speaking to family over there in Iraq, which we did have an opportunity to use landlines and or laptops to communicate. If there's ever an instance where you're on the phone with your loved one and something happens, i.e., speaking of i.e., for example, an IED, explosion or a rocket or a mortar or anything that goes boom, and you're on the phone with somebody, just hang up, period. Don't remain on the phone and try to explain to them what that just was. Just hang up. And been there, happened to me while I was on the phone with my wife. And I remember having to just hang up. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I hope she didn't hear that. As I'm frantically trying to get back to my unit, which is kind of a weird knee-jerk reaction to do while mortars and rockets are, incoming, is to try to make your way back to the building where your unit is as you're running across the courtyard. Kind of a strange concept. Yeah. Actually, no. It's usually afterwards. Wherever you are, you remain. You end up on the floor. You don't know how you got there. And when literally the dust settles, then you're hightailing it back to your unit because they do a head count. And they want to, make sure everybody's accounted for. And then they report that back to the communications center and make sure everybody's good to go. And so in order to do that, you need to get back to your unit so they can do a roll call. I don't even get care packages. Are you talking about like in your position you're in now, or as this new job you're referring to? Maybe I missed something. Were you in basic training exercises? You should not even be on the phone during those, right? Oh, no. Yeah, when you're in basic training, they don't. Unless you get leave. And, you're out in the civilian, out on town during the weekends. You do what you want. But no, in the on the base, when you're in training, no, you don't. You don't even bring those. Oh, and your position I'm in now as a student. Okay. Lose his girlfriend before he went. I thought that was crazy. He did it as well. Poor guy. Yeah, well, I'm sure they're just trying to get his mind where his mind should be and not on his girlfriend. Yeah, well, did he come back to her when he got home, or he literally just moved on? My wife, I remember, I still have the ultrasound pictures. My wife informed me when I was over there in Iraq on a laptop, and she sent me some attachments, and it was the pictures of her ultrasound to show me that she was pregnant to this 19-year-old right over there. He's over there getting food. Yeah, he was a war baby, literally. The product of war, right there. That guy right there. Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna get one. It's sitting over there waiting to lower the handle on that machine and turn it on. Yeah, just to share a little bit of personal details. My wife came to visit me while I was in 29 Palms, California, the Marine Corps station there in the desert, the high deserts of California. And yeah, so I had unfortunately, not everybody in my medical unit got leave. And the command said, I guess, passed the word that only so many people could go out on town. And then the rest of us had to remain and do basically like watch. And I was like so looking forward to this weekend and spending it with my wife. She was going to drive 2 hours to the base from where we were living at the time and visit me that weekend. And then they came in and said, not everybody's going to be able to go out. Half of you guys need to decide who's going to go and who's not. And I got elected to stay, or told to stay. And I pleaded with a shipmate of mine to give up his leave, because my wife was already basically planning on driving to meet me. And his family was in Arizona, so he wasn't close. His family wasn't close. So he was just going to spend time on his own or with the other guys. And I had an opportunity. I convinced him to give me his leave, and he stayed on base. God love him for doing that. If it wasn't for him doing that, my wife wouldn't have got pregnant at the hotel that she stayed in that weekend. That's literally where my son was created, was in the hotel that she stayed in when she came to see me. So my son is literally a war child, the product of war, because we decided we were newly married, relatively. She had never been married and never had any children. And I had to make that decision when I married her, was to become a daddy again. I think I've shared with you, I was married once before, so I already had 2 children, but I remarried and she's never had any kids. And that's the reason why I married her. I had to make the decision to be a daddy again. And I decided, okay, one more, So I married her. Well, now I'm going to war, and there's no guarantee that I'm coming home. Hence the term war babies. Everybody, all the guys go out and get their wives pregnant before they go to war. In the event that he doesn't come home, at least now there's a child. She can have a child with him. And that's what we did in the hotel room. And we even talked about it, and we're like, yep, good idea. So, yep. And it was in 29 Palms at some, I don't know, cheap hotel. And then she sent me her ultrasound. I didn't even expect it. It wasn't like we were anticipating, oh, by the way, send me the results when I get, if you can, once I get over there. I didn't even know she was going to get pregnant. But the plan was to get her pregnant. And sure enough, she's all giggly on the phone. I was like, why? What's going on? She says, I'm pregnant. And I said, what? He says, yeah, I just sent you an email. Check your email. So next time I got on my laptop, I opened up my Gmail, and sure enough, there's the ultrasound results. And she's got a little arrow that she drew on the photo, pointing to this little itty bitty, you can barely even tell it's a fetus, So that was my 19-year-old over there at the microwave, is the result of that. Yep. And then we tried to have another one, which I didn't plan on doing, but we tried, and she didn't get pregnant. So that's all we had, was my 19-year-old. Wait, I missed something here. Oh, I would heck to the nose. There's Madonna moms and cradle rolls for a reason. What's a Madonna mom? Sorry. Yeah, what's a Madonna mom? What is that? Is that a UK thing? What's a Madonna mom? Oh, you're talking about Madonna. What's her name? The performer? The musician? You lost me on that one. Come on, tell me, what is a Madonna mom? What the heck? Do you know that expression, Jordan? He's got his headphones on. He can't hear me. It drives me nuts. One's enough. I got a 14-year-old or so. Look up Cradle Roll Ministry. Well, again, it's hard to do on this Xbox. Just tell me, or copy and paste it. Oh, Jordan. Oh my gosh. He must be just zoning on his game or something. He can't even hear me. And I got to wave my hands. It's like I got a deaf child in the room, and I got to flash the lights so I can get his attention. I wave my hand. Look, he's feeding his face and looking at his laptop. He doesn't even know I'm waving my arm. Gosh, he still doesn't see me. Unbelievable. Come on, Ruger, help me out. What's a cradle roll ministry and a Madonna mom? Whereabouts are you, Ruger? What part of the UK? There's a few of us. There's a Special Forces SAS guy that comes in. He's actually deployed. Oh, Salvation Army for kids. Oh, okay. And there's a few others that are in the UK that come in. Medallion moms are basically moms put in place to raise a child in the absence. Oh, okay. Mother, as they were war babies who were orphaned. It came. Oh, I got you. Gotcha. Get your dad a coffee. He keeps saying, I know. Thank you. No, he's back. He's feeding his face with leftover Chinese food. He's enjoying himself. He's got his rice and his Szechuan chicken and something we ordered. We actually did Chinese food last night. I can smell it. It smells awesome. And I'm going to go get a coffee here. Here, wait. I'm going to turn the camera around. You can watch me get my coffee over there. There, wait. I can see this on my 60-inch TV. So let me focus on the kitchen there. There we go. I'll walk over there and I'll talk. The microphone on this camera is, you'll probably be able to hear me over there while I'm getting coffee. Okay, let's do coffee. In my pajamas, right? Oh, I didn't turn it on. Wait, I need some more water out in the garage. You're probably wondering, why is he getting water out in the garage? Distilled water for the coffee maker, so I don't plug it up with all the hard deposits. Okay. There we go. In process. Let me read your comments here. Wait. I'm from a tiny British island called Jersey. No way. Well, I live in the state of New Jersey. In the Channel Islands between England and France. Oh, okay. It's not anywhere near the Isle of Man or those islands, Scotland and Oh, yeah, that's good. So yeah, I converted from tea to coffee. And I have a little bit of coffee with my creamer. Badoom. Okay, one more pour. I gotta do a double pour because I've got a 14 ounce cup and it handles more than 1 cup of coffee. So, Terry, Fonto, hoorah! Are you U.S. military, Terry? Right on. If you are, we got a few of us, 5 or 6 of us in the room. Not right now, but Army. Actually, the UK, we got an SAS guy that's currently deployed. He actually came into my live stream apparently while he was out in the field in one of his fighting vehicles, and they had a laptop or something in the vehicle, and he was in the chat room while he was deployed. He said he just wanted to pop in real quick and say that he was okay and he didn't say where he was, but it's kind of fun. And we got another medically retired United States Army Special Forces that comes in here. Few Marines. We even got a U.S. Coast Guard that comes in. Terry, Talk to me, bro. Where are you from? Are you a veteran or currently active or what? Too much. Pour a little bit off. Put my creamer. Yes, I put a lot of creamer. I don't want to hear it. Okay. And a Splenda, just one Splenda, and some honey. And this stuff's crystallizing. Speaking of crystal, I've got to melt this stuff a bit in the microwave for 20 seconds, just so it'll pour out of the bottle. It's the unfiltered honey, so it crystallizes too fast. Oh my gosh, look at this leftover. Oh my God. Okay. All right. I think we're set. And now that I'm stirring this coffee, I got to use the head. So that's my next priority here. Give me a second. All right. There's my coffee. Let me go to the bathroom, and I'll be back. Alrighty. All right, I'm back. Hold on. Okay. I think we're back. Nope, I'm back. I lost the battery, but I got a battery back. Okay. Whoa, that's bright. There we go. Do I have audio? Test. Uh-oh, test. Yeah, I got audio. Okay, good. All right, let's try this again. Well, I got 2.5 hours, like I'm supposed to, out of that battery. Now this battery is the one that is failing me, only lasting about an hour and a half. But I got my coffee. Yeah. Oh, that's good. So what did I miss? I was following Crystal's story a little bit. Oh, those SAS lads are tough. Nightmare to play rugby against. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you'll meet him, Ruger, if you're ever in live stream. I haven't seen him in a while. His name is Jeff Sasso, IESASSO. Jeff Sasso is his screen name. And then the other Special Forces United States is Joshua Eason, or Ison, sorry. Yeah, Josh is busy. He owns an auto mechanic shop, but he's retired, medically retired. He was blown up in an IED over in Afghanistan, I believe. But I still am yet to see him in person or on camera. But apparently he's a scary looking dude. He stands like 6'3" or 4", 250 pounds. And his kids even say that he looks scary. So, and he's got an arsenal for the apocalypse in his basement. He's quite the gun collector. So he owns everything, he says, from samurai swords to automatic rifles and everything in between. Apparently he's got a large piece of property up in Wisconsin, USA, the state of Wisconsin. And he freely shoots his weapons on his own property without any repercussions. So he has some problems with coyotes, and he's always telling me, "Hey Doc, I hear coyotes, I got to go shoot some coyotes. I'll be right back." And he goes out and literally has target practice on coyotes. Yeah, I know. But he's quite funny about it all. And if anybody ever wants to talk to him about, weapons and or buy and sell weapons, his doors are open. Yeah, Joshua Ison. That's his screen name. I believe it's his name as well. Ooh, that's hot. How's your tea, Ruger? Rugger? Oh, that's from your, isn't that from, Rugger is from your rugby background? Did I even meet Gurkhas? No. Not even over in Iraq. What country are Gurkhas from? Is that from Afghanistan or Pakistan? Where are they from? Are they from like Nepal or? No, in Nepal, they're the actually, I hiked. I did some trekking in Nepal, and the signs up in the hills. They have some secure or what are they called, checkpoints, and the Nepali military have posts throughout the hills. Yeah, rugger slang for rugby. I figured that out after you mentioned rugby a few times. Yeah. They are in Nepal because I actually have some old photos of the one checkpoint, and it wasn't the Gurkhas that were manning those posts. It was the Nepali. Oh, hold on a second. I've got that. Seems like I've got that. Got a little Ziploc of photos here. Hold on a second. And it seems like I've got a photo in here. Nope, it's not this. Where? Oh, there it is. Right over here. Yeah, I've got these photos that I took my dad's Olympus camera. You know, when you still had to develop your film, and I've got some a whole stack of photos that I took when I was over in Nepal. And there's one photo here. See if I can find it that actually shows the hill or the outpost that I came across, and I can read it, I believe, in the photo as far as the name of the hey, S5W33P3R. What's up, bro? Oh, Birgit, Carmen, Navy, United States Navy. This is a Marine Corps cover that I served with over in Iraq as one of their corpsmen or one of their medics. See if I can find this photo. I hired here's a classic photo. Wow, check that out. Look at that. That's me there in the red pants inside of a cooking house with a Nepali native there and my guide sitting next to me. He was cooking our vegetables that we bought off his from his village, and the smoke literally just permeates through the thatched roofing. Isn't that a classic photo there? I was, what, 24 years old in that photo? Some of the hills, my guide, I hired that 19-year-old kid there. That guy, that little, he's right there in the middle of the photo. Some of the terraced hills over there in Nepal, in the foothills of the Himalayas. Yeah. Yes, Birgit. Navy corpsman is what they call a medic in the Navy. So anyhow, let me look for that photo. I'm pretty sure it's in here. It was I was going up and over a pass, and it has the photo of I took a photo of the guard post out in the middle of nowhere, you know, and they had a military post. Heck, let me see if I can find it. I met a few Gurkhas while serving. Where were you? What am I going to call you? Oh, you're at Sweeper. Okay, I just figured that out. Who are you? Sweeper? U.S. or foreigner? Another country or what? And what branch of service? Jamie! What's up, Jamie? Jamie's in the USA. Sweeper, talk to me, bro. Oh, Royal Logistics. What country is that? Is that the UK or? Sorry. Oh, British. It is the UK. Very good. Cool. What was your job there, Sweeper? Were you you're not hence the term sweeper. Were you part of EOD, explosive ordnance, or? Now that I read your name and I kind of understand it. Yep, Pensacola. Jamie's in Pensacola, Florida. Maybe I don't have this photo, but I know I had it at one point or another. Okay, I think I'm getting close here. Hey, don't forget the like, Sweeper, the thumbs up, if you would. Thank you very much. Gosh, how many of these photos do I have? Oh, I think I'm getting close. Picture of a rooster. Oh, there it is. There it is. National Training Center, Sundarijal, Kathmandu. But it's in Nepalese, so I can't read. But that was it just said National Training Center, Kathmandu, Nepal. Here it is. Nepal Scouts. There we go. There's the Nepal Scouts outpost up in the hills outside of Kathmandu. The very first day of our trek, I came across can't really read it, but I just read it to you. It's all in Nepali at the top, or Hindi in the top, and then it says Nepal Scouts, National Training Center, Sundarijal, Kathmandu. A few of the photos I took. I wish I had taken some better pictures, but it was not the greenest time of the year. Everything was kind of dead and brown and dry. Here we are eating chicken via a kerosene lamp. There in our room. There you can see me with a mustache, I think. Like I said, that was 1986, so I was 24. Oh, here we go. There's a classic. Same setting, but under different lighting there. There we are. We actually found a room with a bunk and a mattress, straw-filled mattresses for us to sleep on, which was better than sleeping on the ground. Decided to purchase a chicken and had my guide butcher it and clean it for the evening. And there he is upstairs in that room beginning to cook it. Yep. Some more of the village, what the village consisted of as we were hiking traversing along the sides of these hills. Oh, they do. Yeah, speaking of, as you know now, a lot of British influence over in Nepal. It had England written all over it when I was there. The music, the food, the croissants, the tea, the chai, as they called it. It was just a lot. You could see the remnants of the British history, the English history over in Nepal. Yep. Absolutely. And a lot of American influence now because of the American mountaineering community and so on. And they leave a lot of stuff over there in Nepal for them to enjoy, and then they incorporate it into their restaurant. I was listening to Spyro Gyra jazz over the speakers in Nepal. I was kind of impressed, like, oh my gosh, I recognize that music. How in the heck do they have modern jazz over here in Nepal? The typical English breakfast and tea and so on. It's quite nice for, it's like creature comforts from home. Yeah, there is, Burgett. Over in there in Nepal? That's a good question, though. I treated most of all my water just so I could keep safe. I brought iodine tablets that you could purchase at the local, sporting goods store, and brought that with me. And every water bottle that I filled up, I always put, a couple tabs of iodine in it and shook it around. And, it turns it a little bit orange, but better be safe than sorry. Or bottled water. If the bottled water is sealed and it's coming from a vendor, then bottled water was safe. But you didn't find that very often. So I treated all my water. But once you're out in the hills, they had natural spring runoff coming out of the rocks. And you use your own discretion as far as, where that water, what land that water traverses, before it came to you. And they would have pieces of bamboo. Whenever there was water, natural spring water coming off of a hillside, for instance, or down the embankment through the rocks, it was pretty cool. They take a piece of bamboo and split it in half and put that 180-degree piece of bamboo right and just dig it into the hillside where the water is coming down. And then that bamboo is almost like a drinking fountain. As you're hiking by, this piece of bamboo would be sticking out of the hillside, and the water is dripping right off of it, coming down it and dripping. So you just sit there and fill your hands up and drink right there off of that piece of bamboo. Yeah, I encountered that few times, passing through some of the villages and or the trails. But if it's traversing along or over somebody's farmland, and they've got animals, it might be not recommended that you drink in the water as it's passing through somebody's farmland. Oh, how cool. German Army in 1993. Where are you, Bridget, now? Did you say already? Exactly. Ruger, now that you say that, going to your neighbor's house in Nepal, you basically need to climb a mountain. That was, unfortunately / fortunately, was my entire experience trekking in Nepal. I only had 2 weeks. So time was of the essence, unfortunately. That was the unfortunate part. I didn't have enough time. So I did what I could with the time I had. So I literally, like looking at my watch at the date and looked at when my plane left and said, okay, I have this many days. So I split it in half and said, I can hike in 4 days and I need to hike out 4 days. And that would give me enough time to get ready to catch the flight back without missing my flight. So those 4 days that I was hiking in the hills was nothing but doing that. You take an entire day hiking up a hill, the hill of Nepal, and then down the backside, which kicked your butt, spending all day traversing back and forth, going up a mountain, and then down the other side to the village. And then you're whooped for the day. You're hungry. You find food. Hopefully the villagers, have, or you're eating your own that you packed in. But it was common to hike from one village, like you said, to the other, and then camp out overnight. And the next day, you repeat what you just did the day before. You end up going back up another hill, another mountain, and then back down the other side. Take all day. The entire day was just hiking up that one mountain and then back down the other side. And I did that for 4 days. Oh my gosh. I only gained 4,000 feet of elevation, from 4,000 feet to 8,000 feet in those 4 days. It was just constantly going up and down, up, or switch backing up, switch backing down. It's exactly what it was. And to say that I got my butt kicked would be an understatement. Although, had I had another month, I might have gotten used to it. But I didn't have that time. So I had to turn around and literally walk and do the same thing to get back. So you were in Bavaria. It was a medical battalion. Cool. Were you a medic in the Army? I'm sorry, Bridget. Where are you now? Are you in Germany or? Ruger, having that 19-year-old as my guide, it was definitely the way to go. I had read a book, Trekking in Nepal, I think was the name of it. And, did my homework as much as I could as far as what my options were. And basically it was, you could go and live primitive. That was the cheapest. Or you could live with this amount of money, or you could live, and spend a lot of money if you wanted to, or more. And I chose the first one. I decided to see how little I could spend. And I spent a total of $125 US only for 2 weeks in Nepal. 125 bucks. And I ran out of money actually at the end, and I ended up selling some belongings that I had just to buy dinner the last night and stay in my last hotel room, which I ended up getting for free. Some other guy's roommate went trekking, so his bunk was open, and I happened to run into him, and he was from Washington State, USA. And he said, "Hey, I got an extra bed in my room. Why don't you stay in this one?" Because I didn't have enough money to rent another room for the night before my plane left the next day. So he gave me his bunk. And I had to borrow $10 from him for airport tax. Apparently they had an airport tax. I didn't anticipate. So he gave me $10 and he said, here's my address if you want to send it to me, but no biggie if you don't. And I sold a gold necklace over in Nepal as well. I actually sold a gold necklace that I wore for, gosh, how many years? I had that thing forever. A little thin herringbone, necklace. It was just a thin one. And I ended up They did an acid test on it and everything and make sure it was real gold. And they gave me just dollars for it. Not even, anything to mention, but it was an extra dinner or money for that day. Oh, and I sold some Levi's over there as well for some extra money. Awesome, Bridget. Were you also in the medical field as a civilian, or only in the military? Whoa. Am I speaking to like my father's age? You might be even older than first German soldiers after World War II. Oh, I see. In another country. Gotcha. Oh, only in the military. No way. I was speaking to the sister and she's ordered me to go traveling, so I might check Nepal out. It's pretty cool, as long as there's no earthquakes. You heard about that. That was after I went, but I had a good experience. It was my very first experience with that part of the world, and it was an eye-opener. I'd never been out of the United States. Let's see, had I been then? I actually flew to Bangkok, Thailand. That was who I was. My first wife was from Bangkok, and we went back to see her family then in 1986. And so because I was over there, I looked on the world map. It was before the internet, before Google Maps. This big old 4x8 map, rolled up world map I put out on my living room floor to see where I was going to go, where we were going to be in the world. And I realized how close I was to Nepal. I was only a 4-hour flight from Bangkok, Thailand to Nepal. And I was in the rock climbing, mountaineering community then. And so it was a natural draw to experience the Himalayas. So although I didn't have the experience, to be doing anything serious, I thought, well, when am I going to have an opportunity like this again? And so I convinced my wife to let me go after 2 weeks in Thailand. And I spent the last 2 weeks of my month vacation in Kathmandu, Nepal by myself, solo. But I ended up hiring a 19-year-old, as you saw in those pictures, a 19-year-old guide in the city. Actually, he found me and whisked me away from the vultures as I made the mistake of opening up my duffel bag to try to sell some Levi's out on the street. And he was like, no, dude, follow me. Come here. Don't do that. Come here. Follow me. And I had everybody around me. It was like the worst thing I could have done, but they were like vultures all surrounding me. And he literally came in and grabbed my shirt and said, no, don't do that. Follow me. And I packed up my stuff and followed him, and he became my guide from that point on. And that was actually my plan, but he found me. And I paid him half up front, and I paid him the last half at the end. So I hired him that way. And it was super. I would recommend that. Unless you've already been there, done that, and you know what you're doing out there. But, that was my first experience, and it was a godsend that I had him. Although I had to kind of keep him in check a few times. I caught him overcharging me for a task that I wanted him to do for me. I think he was going to wash my clothes. No, he was renting a motorcycle for me. I wanted to go up in the hills and see if I could get some photos of the Himalayan range before I started my trek. And he went to rent this motorcycle. He came back with it. And then I paid him whatever it was he said it cost. And then that day on the cycle, I went to where he rented it from and found out that he charged me like double what he paid for it. And I approached him about it, and he was embarrassed. And I just told him, I said, dude, you know, I can always find somebody else, and I'm going to go back home and I'm going to tell them about what you did, and not to look out for your name, you know, look out for Sanu, Sanu, beware of Sanu. And he got all, oh, I'm sorry, you know, and he gave me my money back, and he's like, I won't do it again. And he learned his lesson the hard way. And then he was at my door every morning at 7:00. Mr. Gary. And then we would go out to breakfast, and he was good to go from that point on. And then once I got him out of the city into the hills, then he couldn't take advantage of me, you know, because he wasn't around the shops, you know, and the stores. We were out, you know, in the hills, and there's no stores out in the hills. So it was a good experience as a 24-year-old kid, my very first time, you know, out of the country. And they lost my baggage when I landed on that primitive airstrip in Kathmandu. And there I was on the tarmac without my luggage. And thank God it came the next flight in a couple hours later. But I was thinking, you have to be kidding me. I'm on the other side of the world, and all I have is what I have in my body right now. And I don't have my backpack. I don't have my duffel bag. And I thought, what a way to start out my vacation. But it did come in. I think I ended up waiting like 4 hours total. It sucked. Yeah, I know. But, and then although it didn't end there, it didn't kind of get off on the right foot. You know, I'd already done my research and read my book, and, you know, decided I know where I needed to go. I was looking for the Yak and Yeti Hotel. Yes, you heard right. Yak and Yeti Hotel. It's like a 5-star hotel there in Kathmandu, 4 or 5 star. Yeah, I was scared, actually. I wasn't raging. I was like, you know, I was already nervous being alone and by myself. And now I don't have my baggage. Holy crap. So I was trying to get to the Yak and Yeti Hotel. It's in the town of Thamel, Thamel. And it was like the mountaineering town, you know, that everybody went to when beginning everything out of Nepal, out of Kathmandu. The city of Thamel is the mountaineering town, you know, the mountaineering hangout, the climbing town. Whether you're trekking or you're, you know, doing something serious, you start out in Thamel. So that's where I wanted, that was my destination. Well, the taxi that picked me up, you know, I told him I wanted to go to Thamel, and he said, well, I can get you to this point. And I was like, okay, well, I need to get to Thamel. And he's like, well, I can take you to this town first. And then I thought, where's he taking me? And I'm trying to find it, and I couldn't figure out. And I said, well, why are you taking me there? He says, I forget the reason, but he convinced me. And then I started getting nervous. Like, okay. Well, I had a girl from the UK in the taxi with me. she was going to another destination, but I remember sharing the taxi with her. Let her off first, and I was the last to be dropped off. He took me to this other town other than Taumel. And he also asked me, do you need to exchange money? I was like, yeah, actually I do. And then it was black market. And I didn't have really any experience with that. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, where's he taking me? And then I started getting nervous that he, was taking me somewhere and I was gonna be taken advantage of. Well, everything worked out. Ended up exchanging money. Took me to this town, got a hotel, stayed overnight, looked at my map, figured out where I was, which direction I needed to go, and then checked out at like 5:30 in the morning. Pretty much. I had it planned out where I wanted to head towards, but I only had so much time, so I knew I wasn't going to make it to where I wanted to go. But I knew the route and the trailhead that I needed to find outside of Taumel. But Taumel was the town that I needed to get to. And then I could start from there and figure out the rest. Hey, M Ski. Thank you, M, for finding me and for coming to my live stream. So anyways, back to the inn, or the what do they call it? The guest house that I stayed in the first night. At least they had a lock on the door. I was afraid. I'd read about thieves, and just to make sure that your hotel room was locked before you left it if you needed to leave your hotel room. And they did have a lock, so that was good. And I just stayed overnight, and then I couldn't sleep anymore, and ended up waking at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and the front desk wasn't even open, if you even want to call it that. The whole family slept in the front, behind the front desk, on the floor. Husband, wife, and two kids. They slept on futons or mattresses on the floor there behind the front desk of the hotel room, or the guest house. So I remember waking up the owner at 5:30 in the morning with my backpack on my back, my expedition pack, and my duffel bag. And he was sleeping on top of the counter. He was on the counter, laying down on top of the counter. And I remember touching him, and he's like, "Oh," I wake him up. I was like, "I need to check out." "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, sir." Yeah, Uncle of Bigfoot. No, I didn't see the Yeti. No. But that was the name of the hotel that I was looking for. The initial, that 5-star hotel, was the Yakin Yeti Hotel. I got a souvenir here. Where is it? Where's that thing? Is it in here? Oh, check it out. It is in here. Look. This was the first restaurant. Check it out. Look what it says. Look at that. Remember the town of Taumel? There it is. Taumel, Kathmandu, Nepal. 40,000 foot bar at the Rum Doodle restaurant. Taumel, Kathmandu, Nepal. That's my souvenir. Speaking of Bigfoot, look. You guys get it. How fitting, huh? You just said the word Bigfoot or Yeti. There it is. Yeah. That was one of my souvenirs. I had, that was the coaster, for the drink. That was. Yeah, ain't that something? Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, these are other pictures. Okay. Crazy. The Rum Doodle Restaurant. Oh, so anyways, so I check out of my hotel room or my guest house, and now I'm on foot with, you know, a 40-pound pack on my back or more and a duffel bag, and I'm on foot, and it's just fog, you know, that morning dew fog on the streets. And like I said, it was too early for businesses to be open yet. So everything's locked down, you know, those draw doors, you know, in front of the businesses. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm looking at my map, and it's not an official map. It's a tourist map. You know how accurate those things are. And so I'm thinking I'm going in the right direction. And then finally I passed the food was fine. Again, I was married to a girl from Thailand. So I had already converted, you know, into the Asian cuisine, and I've been eating that for the last 40 plus years. And now I'm married to a girl from the Philippines. So I've been eating this way for longer than half my life, 2/3 of my life. And so the food in Nepal really is no different. It's just a little, you know, the cuisine and the preparation of the food is and the flavor is more Indian, where Thailand is the same, but that is another beautiful menu in Thailand. Oh my gosh. To this very day, I rave about Thai food to this very day. And I still eat Thai food. I just made yum, what is it called again? Gai is chicken in Thai. Lap gai. It's a ground chicken with cilantro and red onions and all the chili and sticky rice to make it thick and make everything stick to itself. It's wonderful. Anyways, the food is, again, the base is rice, so everything is eaten with rice. So that whole concept was nothing new to me. It was just the preparation and the flavors and the spices were different. But I was, you know, I'm easy to please. I'll eat anything. So food was not a problem. Out in the hills, it was fresh. You know, I showed that picture of that chicken that my guide butchered. And we had spinach and or bok choy type vegetables fresh right from the village. And or the village family would make us a big old mound of white rice on this big bamboo plate. So there the white rice was, and then they bring us some spinach and or some other vegetables along with a whole chicken, and the guide would feather that and butcher it and feather it and bleed it and boil it, you know, and then we'd chow down on that. Fresh yak milk right there on the trail. Or literally a cauldron. This lady, like you can picture a witch, you know, she wasn't a witch, you know, stirring this giant cauldron over an open wood fire with this big paddle, and it's yak milk with a layer of foam and fresh cream just curdling right there on top of this giant cauldron of yak milk. And they literally put a ladle in that hot milk and pour you a big, either you have your own glass or they had one, and they'd fill it up for you, and you give them a few Nepali rupee, you know, for this fresh hot yak milk on the trail. That was cool. It had the ash from the fire kind of floating around on top of the foam. You know, you just kind of push that aside and drink the milk underneath it. That was the bomb. Or you buy fresh vegetables right from the villagers as they're hauling their crop to their village. And all the ladies have that tump line around their, you know, that strap around their forehead, carrying the basket on their back. Those baskets are full of crops, you know, jicama, root, carrot, lettuce, you know, all the cabbage and or spinach. And we would stop them on the trail and they'd pull their basket down off their back, and my guide would point and speak Nepali to them, and then we'd pay them, and we'd have fresh jicama. We'd peel that, and he'd peel it for me. And, that's what he did as my guide. He would cook me breakfast and take care of me and, communicate for me. And so that was our trail food, was just wonderful. Of course, we had our freeze-dried stuff when we needed to rely on that. But otherwise, you pretty much eat like a king for a very cheap price, while you're on the trail. The fields, actually, those pictures of those terraces, it was either rice, barley, and I don't know if it was wheat or not, but it was grain is what they were growing. At least those terraces, I was told, is what they were growing. But we didn't, we just ate their rice that they had already, prepared and cooked for us. And so we would just request it, and either they had it or they didn't. So, Sama. How old are you, Sama? Are you young enough to call me Grandpa? You need to be like 12 years old if you want to call me Grandpa. That's how old my grandchild is. But oh, you say only young people can what? Can trek? Oh, heck, if I had an opportunity to... Sama, you're 25. Well, you can't call me Grandpa there, bro. You can call me Uncle or Dad. How about that? Yeah, it would, and I never did get a chance to go back again. Although I did go to the Philippines, and I've been to Iraq. That's nothing to brag about. But I ended up getting married in the Philippines. Went back to meet her mom and dad, her family, and we planned the wedding back there. So got married in the Philippines. I know. If I could, it would kick my butt right now. I'd have to get back into the shape. I was in the best shape of my life up until I was 53 years old. Some motivation for you young guys out there. But yeah, rock climbing and mountaineering kept me in incredible shape. And then when I moved back here to New Jersey, everything kind of came to an end. But as you saw, I don't know if you saw, but I'm still lean and thin relatively, but as far as being in the shape I used to be in, that is kind of declined. So, but I still have aspirations of, getting back out there and, I still put a backpack on my back and, hike 2 miles, up to Starbucks and back, and do it on purpose so that I can relive some of my past by putting a backpack on my back instead of and packing it about 25 pounds of weight, just because it's better than nothing. Correct. Yeah. Iraq was because of 9/11. Yeah. Yeah, so that was pretty much my, my blast from the past. 1986. Spent 2 weeks in Thailand. Went to Chiang Mai. That's the northern Thailand. It's kind of a tourist trap. You take a train up to northern Thailand, up to Chiang Mai. Although it was a good experience. And then, yeah, I left by myself to Kathmandu, and my wife and my little boy, who's 19 now. Actually, he's 40 now. What am I saying? He's 19. My 40-year-old. Her and my little boy went to the beach resort. You heard about it during that tidal wave that wiped out that part of Southeast Asia. The island of, or the beach, what's the name of it? Popular beach in Thailand. The name of the beach is PP Beach. But it's on the island of, I'm drawing a blank. Is Iraq better than the USA? No. Well, the part of Iraq, the part of Iraq that I was in, yeah, not a good place. No, it's just a dangerous, at least at that time. It was the most heavily mortared and rocketed fob in the theater at the time. That was the information I got at 29 Palms here in the USA. Oh, by the way, we're going to what's considered to be the most heavily mortared and rocketed fob in the theater, forward operating base. Fob heat. And so I got that news before I left, and I didn't know what do you do when you hear that? You're like, are you kidding me? That's where we're going? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was just the dirt was more like a powder, almost like a baby powder. We noticed that. Yeah. It was very unique. It wasn't sand. It was almost like a baby powder, but it was tan baby powder. You step in it, it's literally like, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Is this for real? Yeah. In the wadis, the dry riverbeds. Yeah, really, really bad, thick, like desert baby powder. Yeah, oh yeah. Wait, when the helicopters would land, they had big problems over there, as you probably know. Yeah, especially the machines, even the laptops. They had to shut the Marine Welfare and Recreation, they called it the MWR room. It was basically where the phones and the laptops were. And we called it the MWR room, Marine Welfare and Recreation. And they had to shut that down twice a week to clean the laptops and use the spray cans of air, and spray the dust and debris off the electronics to keep them operating. Yep. Yeah, Phi Beach, exactly. What island is that? That's on the Phuket. Thank you. You just correct. Phi Beach. It's on the island of Phuket. Phuket. Correct. Yeah. So my wife and little boy went to Phuket, which I wanted to go, but I also had tickets to Kathmandu, so I knew I had to give that up. So. Yeah, North America and Europe. Yeah, not a good place to do your job. I don't know what you all do, as a job, and this is no kidding. Imagine if you haven't already experienced, dangerous places or ordnance, which I had not, at least nothing bigger than a M16, automatic rifle and or a shotgun that I used to use when my dad would take me duck hunting. But as far as experiencing, 60 and 80 millimeter mortars, and anything and everything after that, a 50 cal rifle, never experienced. But imagine being in the presence of all that and just trying to do your job, whatever it is you do. even, we had overseas foreign workers with us from Albania and Yugoslavia on the base, as well as 2 Iraqi interpreters. And we all lived together on the base. And just the guy from Yugoslavia and Albania emptied our trash and cleaned the outhouses, sucked all the blue water out of the porta-johns, and replaced it with, that whole drill of emptying those outhouses, cleaning them, spraying them down with power washers and all that. Well, imagine just doing that job, not to mention, a soldier's job, while 60 and 80, the potential of 60 and 80 millimeter mortars landing near and or around you, or even a quarter mile away from you, and having your doors in your building that you're living in blown open, like a wave of air just slams your door open and fills your room full of dust and puts you on your face, and not even knowing how you got there on the ground with all your other shipmates on the ground on their faces, looking at each other, waiting for this barrage to stop. And then after the dust clears and everybody does a head count and everybody's accounted for, you find out later by the communications center that, we're always wondering, how close was that? It must have been right outside the gate or something for that effect to hit our building. And they said, oh, no, that was an 1/8 mile off. They missed by an 1/8 of a mile or a quarter of a mile. And we're like, what? It did that to our base? And they were that far off? And they're like, yep. And we're like, holy crap. For us to experience that effect, and they missed by that far? And you're just trying to do your job. You might just be putting a Band-Aid, on some soldier's finger because he cut it, on something. You're just trying to do basic stuff. You're just trying to eat your dinner. You're just trying to take a piss in the outhouse. You're just trying to sleep. And to have that going on around you? No. Not a good place to be living. And you got 7 more months, at the beginning. You're thinking, the very first time you experience that, and you think, oh my gosh, I am in this spot on the map for the next 7 months. 1/8 of a mile around the barbed wire. Literally, call it the barbed wire, but it was broken. But the Marines figured out that if you walked around the barbed wire, or if you ran around the barbed wire, inside the barbed wire, it was 1/8 of a mile. So if you ran around 8 times, it was 1 mile. That's how they gauged how far they were running. That's how small of a circle that I lived on. 1/8 of a mile around the perimeter. That was my home for 7 months, while they're taking pot shots at you. Those are rockets. The ones that whistle, they're rockets. Mortars don't make a sound. You can hear the mortar, the launch of them, if you do hear it. But when they're traveling through the air, you don't hear them. And so you just sit there, and it's mortifying to hear the launch and then wonder, okay, where's it going to hit? It sucks. You're just a sitting duck. You're just waiting. Yeah, it is. It's the days. That's exactly what you're doing. There's 2 priorities when you're at war: to do your job whatever it is your job is, whether you're a medic, whether you're infantry, whatever it is, whether you're cleaning out houses or taking out the garbage, there's two priorities: to do your job and to get home. And that's it. That's what you're there for. You're there to do your job and to get home. And you got 7 months of it. And everybody is just waiting the countdown. And then you kind of lose track of it after a while. And then it comes back and resurfaces, and then you forget about it. And then something bad happens, and then that goes away, and yeah, it keeps going back and forth. So, waiter from Big Lebowski. Hey, George Mundi. Sorry, did I miss anybody else? Beyond the Veil. What's up, young lady? ¿Cómo está? Oh, Soma, you're still there. Sama. Yeah, Rugger. What is it? Ruger or Rugger? Rugby, so it's Rugger. Okay. Hey, speaking of Rugger, there's another guy in the USA. He actually has a background of theater, and he's a rugby player. What's his name? His name's that's not you, is it? No, it's not Rugger. He's a guy here in America, and but I haven't seen him in a long time. Every once in a while, he drops in. Oh, he's an ex-U.S. Marine, and yeah, he comes in, so maybe you'll get a chance to meet him. Here, let me say hello to George here real quick. George Mundi. Whereabouts are you, George, again? I forget. George Mundi. As far as getting stationed in Japan, here, true story. I spent 8 years in the Navy, and not once did I step aboard a ship. So no, I haven't been to Japan. Never did. Never even got to experience the there's a not a protocol, but a tradition when boarding a ship, and you learn it at the beginning when you go through boot camp and you do your book work and training. You know how the do's and don'ts of when to board a ship and how to do it, and it's a tradition to go through these certain asking for permission to board the ship, permission being granted, saluting the ensign at the after the ship, and then saluting the colors, and then you board the ship after you cross the gangway, you know, from the land or from the port across the gangway onto the ship. There's like a formal tradition that you go through to board the ship. Well, I never even got a chance to do that. So I was on the land, on the ground the whole time. How are you, Beyond the Veil? friend was stationed out of Okinawa, right, half a year. Heard funny stories about the girl bars that they got for the Marines. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. My ex-brother-in-law, my sister, was married to a Navy chief. He retired as a chief. Unfortunately, they got divorced. But when they were married, I got to know Randy and had a great relationship with him. And that was before I actually joined the Navy. And he was on board a Viking, S3 Viking submarine warfare. He was not a pilot, but a whatever his job was. And he was stationed in Japan. My sister and him both lived in Japan, in Iwakuni, Japan, I think. Iwakuni? Or wait. What was the name of that? The Iwakuni? Maybe that's where my dad was. God, I got memories of that name, Iwakuni. No, they lived. My sister and her husband at the time lived in Misawa, Japan. But other than that, no, I never. We still have plans of my son wants to experience Japan, and so we've talked about it a few times. But it's so expensive in Tokyo, and so. But it's close to the Philippines, where my wife's from. So we're thinking of like either stopping in Japan before we go down to the Philippines, or on the way home, go to the Philippines, and then on the way home, go to Japan, and then continue back home. We're still talking about it. Nope, never to India. The closest I got was Nepal. C. Roy, what's up, young man? I'm guessing. Fine. Haven, haven't had any snow. No, of course not. Wait. Beyond the veil. Wait, where are you? I'm thinking you're somebody else. I'm sorry. I was thinking you were from the Philippines. But you're not. I mistaken you for somebody else. Scott! Yeah, I did. I know. Isn't it something? Finally. What did somebody say recently? Good to say about it, but someone said, finally, someone that can think, or what was it? Finally, somebody that knows what he's doing. Something like that. It's like, of course, it was the same way the first term. For those of you that, didn't follow him the first term, he did the same thing the first time. He signed so many executive orders when he first got in and just made history. And now he's just continuing. He's having to reverse what was reversed by Biden. Now he's got to start over again. But he sure is making a difference. Ain't that the truth? Come on. Even the feel in the air. Tell me he isn't already changing the world. Look at the deals he's making. He's allowing $500 billion of business to come into America. He did it the first 4 years. I was in awe of what he was doing. Just literally in awe. It's like, oh my gosh, can he do this? Is he really doing this? Yes, he is doing this. And you're witnessing it again. It's unbelievable. Do you see the countries just coming out of the woodwork to work with the man? They even say, we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for you to get back in. Just crazy. The influence that America can have on the world. I keep saying it. He's not just going to change America. He'll change the world. Literally change the world. It's that easy. I know. In Germany, I mean, watch what America will do. I mean, watch what it will do. I don't quite understand it all, but I know that Trump has a way of thinking that is beyond what others can do, because obviously if they thought like him, he would have already done it. I mean, Biden would have already done it, and obviously he didn't. And or Harris. They even said that at the end, or he said that, why is she changing things now? And the reason was because I said something about it as I'm coming in and challenging them, and now they're he's like, so how come she didn't act on this in the first place? How come she didn't do this in the first place? If it was such an idea of hers, how come she didn't do it in the first place? So anyhow, praise God for Trump. Telling you. Oh, what's that? Wilderness Guru? Canada's already bought 2 Blackhawks since he's been in power, hoping it may be enough to stop the tariff. Well, it's either he's using the tariff as like it's like show of force. He even said, you either do it this way or I'm going to charge you a tariff. If you don't want the tariff, then accept what I'm asking you to do. Right? Not going to lie, I was a bit nervous with Biden in office. He needed to be put into a care home, in my opinion. Please, Trump is back. Please, Trump is back in. Yeah. Oh, I bet. Well, everybody thought the same about Biden, and all due respect to the president of the United States, I respect that. I understand that now that I've been in the military, You're not saluting the person. You're saluting this. The position, the rank. So put your personal, feelings aside of a person. But in all honesty, I didn't know who Biden was, nor did I want to know who he was, because of what he did against Trump and his policies and reversing everything that he put into place. So I didn't even follow Biden. Honestly, for 4 years, I didn't turn him back on. That may have been wrong for me to not follow, what he was doing, but I literally shut him off. And I didn't follow anything that he was doing. If you would have asked me, oh, so what do you think about Biden doing this? I would have said, I have no idea what he's doing. All I was seeing of him is what I was seeing around me and or hearing other people say about him. And every once in a while, the news would, end up on my recommendation list, but I didn't watch him, nor did I turn him on. And all I was doing was hoping that Trump was going to get back in, and then I'll be searching everything I can about Trump and trying to follow everything that he's doing. I want to hear him. I want to hear him is the first thing the most important thing I want to do is hear him talk. I don't want to hear what the media says he said, or a talk show says he said, or no. I want to watch him, and I want to hear him. I don't even want to hear Fox News, even though, they're pro Trump. I just would rather hear him say it instead of a newscaster tell me what he said. Oh, let me catch back up here. I bet Biden voted for Trump. Here, hey, just a little. Got to throw this in there. Speaking of, I know this is funny, Biden voting for Trump, but during his inauguration, I don't know if you all got a chance to, if you haven't, listen to Trump's speech. I got to brag, but I call him the modern day Abraham Lincoln, I swear. And not only does he write well, because all his speeches, he writes, by the way, his actions match what he says. So that makes his speeches even more history making. So anyways, on that note, during his inauguration, did you see Biden and Harris stand, other than when he said the J9 is it J9 hostages, when the hostages were released, then that was the only time they stood up and applauded. And you know what? You asked my wife and my son what I was yelling at the TV when I saw Biden remain seated along with Harris, while everybody else in the audience would stand and give him a standing ovation, and was rooting and hollering, for him. I was yelling at Biden and Harris saying, stand up. He's your president now. I don't care what you think about him. He's your president now. Doesn't matter who you are as an ex-president and an ex-vice president. He is literally Biden and Harris's president now. Tell me I'm wrong. Why aren't you standing up? I was yelling at the TV. Stand up. For God's sakes, respect the position. It was sad. It was like devastating for me to watch them remain seated. Unbelievable. What in the world? Who do they think they are? He's your president now. You are an American, just like everybody else, right? It doesn't matter who they were before. President Donald Trump is now their president. Stand up. Respect it. I was like livid with them. What are you doing? Yeah, Hillary, I know. They were, yeah, I know. Whether or not whether the smile was actually what we were thinking it was, it definitely didn't go over very well, right? Oh, I know. Did you see him go like this? Did you see Barron when he goes like this? He's doing it to the crowd. I was like, yeah. Oh, I loved it. He's like an internet sensation now. Barron Trump. He's 6'8". My wife knows all about it. My nephew, my sister's son, unbelievable. He's 6'9", and he's 19 years old. It's like, oh, I can't. 6'9" or 6'7". In other words, he's a giant like Barron is. And he's only 19, just like my son. My son's only 5'9", and his cousin is 6'8" at 19 years old. 6'7" or 6'8". Oh, I got a picture of him. You can't tell in his photo, but let's see if I have a picture. Matter of fact, here he is. Here he is. This guy right here. That's my sister's son. And let's see if I get a full head to toe. Yep, okay. He is in this photo. Let's see here. There he is. OMG. This is my two sisters, and my sister's son. Check that out. Now, my sister in the middle in the white dress, she's 5'10". And she's got heels on. So she's probably like 6 foot in this picture. Now, he doesn't look 6'8" or 6'7". Yes, he's 6'7". That's my youngest sister in the red, my oldest sister, our eldest sister in the middle, and then her son next to her. Yeah. Oh wait, here's another black and white photo of him. Yeah. Yep. So anyways, yeah, that reminded me of Baron when he stood up. He's even taller. But I loved it. It was so good. He all put his hand to his ear and the crowd was going wild over him when his dad told him to stand. Oh, did you that was the other thing, Scott. I was saying, I was like, oh my gosh, it's got to be so embarrassing for him to be sitting there while Trump was saying what he was saying. He just held no punches and just came right out and said what he was about to do, the changes he was going to make. And it was a direct reflection on what Biden didn't do. And there he sat that close to Trump while he said that. Oh, God. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Same as we're the same. Trump is Scottish. And I didn't realize that until someone told me, or the media said it. And I went, oh my gosh, so am I. The hair, right? It's the hair. And the height or whatever. Yeah. The MacKay clan. Uh-oh. I'm lagging. I'm not even on let me get rid of that. See, it's not going away. Yeah, I'm frozen. It's starting to lag. Ruh-roh. You know what that means? Oh, have I what? Played the Trump versus Hitler quiz on who's that? No. What? What? Is that a joke or you're serious? Trump's from Germany. Before 200 years went to USA. I got you. I'm being, or I remember being told it was, he's got Scottish in him. Uh-oh. You know what, guys? I might have to, my wife is coming home actually, and it would be a good time to just, I've already been on for 4 hours or 2 minutes shy of 4 hours. So I think this would be a good time to end this. Tomorrow, Friday night, I'll be on again at 8 p.m. So, house, ladies, gentlemen, do as I always say, and we'll do it again tomorrow night. Okay? So, Wiener, thanks, Burgett, Crystal again, Rugger, the rest of you guys, Scott. But I'm frozen again. I'm yeah, so I'm gonna have. Yep, it did, Scott. I agree. Absolutely. It was go down in history. Yep. All right, guys, I'm going to change over to this rock and roll and end this, baby. If I can just navigate, I'm not able to click on anything. So I'm frozen here. Can't even click on the music. I'll keep trying here. Come on. I'm not going to be able to end this.